2025. It was not just another year on the calendar. It was a turning point in many, many respects. Security-dominated national conversations with government forces, communities, and regional partners grappling with threats old and new, particularly with the mass abductions that a good number of us are very well aware of. Look at, for instance, November 2017, gunmen abducted 25 female students from the Government Girls Comprehensive Secondary School in Maga, Kebbi State, killing the school's vice principal. November 21, 315 students and staff were said to have been abducted from St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri, Niger State. Most, if not all, were eventually said to have been released by late December. The incident triggered the indefinite closure of schools across several northern states. September 5, suspected Boko Haram fighters killed at least 60 people and burned 28 houses in Dara Jamal village, Borno State. October 31, the United States designated Nigeria a country of particular concern regarding religious freedom. December 25, the U.S., in collaboration with the federal government of Nigeria, launched airstrikes against ISIS-linked groups in Sokoto states.
Well, politics also played a critical role in the year 2025. We saw power blocks shifted, institutions were tested, and policy debates grew sharper as lawmakers, governors, party leaders, they all navigated their way, competing interests. Top on the list was in March when President Bola Tinubu invoked the emergency powers to suspend Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy, and the State House of Assembly. Consequently, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, retired, was appointed as the administrator for 6 months. Upon the lifting of that emergency rule in September, Governor Fubara resumed office and he defected from the PDP to the APC, a move that fundamentally realigns power in the oil-rich South region. Now, outside River State, we also had some other happenings. In July, we saw the political landscape shifting with the African Democratic Congress, the ADC coalition, that came on. And in spite of this move, 2025 records what many have now described as a quiet capture by the APC because of the wave of defections, which saw dozens of national and state lawmakers move to the APC.
And I can tell you right now that at least 28 governors are standing on the mandate, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that's what it means.
Are you on the mandate?
I'm a journalist. Well, at the heart of all of that is the issue around the economy, inflation, jobs, debt, growth targets. We're no longer abstract figures, but lived-in experiences by citizens, you and I. Now, highlights of the Nigerian economy includes the rebasing of our gross domestic product, a positive number and one that saw Nigeria reclaims a spot as one of Africa's largest economy, with a GDP estimated at approximately $250 billion. Headline inflation dropped significantly from roughly 34% in January to 14% by November 2025. After the rebasing of the CPI, the Naira traded mostly within a band of what I like to say it in the Nigerian way, 1.5 and 1.4 at the official window. Now, foreign reserves recorded relatively steady growth with $39 billion by the end of January to $45 billion by December, that's December 23, 2025. In June, President Tinubu signed 4 landmark tax reform bills into law. They will take effect not just on January the 1st, 2026, but in about 24 or plus hours.
Yeah.
Just to drive it home.
Yeah.
So we count down the hand of the clock moving. Well, in all of this, Nigerians watched closely, demanding accountability, stability, and results. Beyond the rhetorics and beyond the data, the reality is what Nigerians are talking about. So tonight we ask, what changed? What didn't change? And what lessons can we take into 2026?
Maybe we should do that. What must change?
What must change? Tax changing, number one.
What must, the laws can change. How about the attitude? Anyway, we'll talk about that. So as you may guess, at the heart of all of these conversations this evening are security, politics, and the economy. and the frontliners are on standby to speak to us. So please stay with us.
From clashes over land and grazing rights in Benue State and coordinated ethnic militia attacks in Plateau State to resurgence of insurgency in Northeast and banditry attacks in Northwest, as well as parts of North Central, insecurity threatened the very fiber of Nigeria's existence in 2025. The Global Terrorism Index ranked Nigeria 6th worldwide in 2025, up from 8th in the previous year. Behind the statistics are human stories, lives lost, families displaced, and communities living in fear.
If you look at the West African security tracker, it's indicated that there are over 5,000 incidents in Nigeria, which amounts to about 12,900 deaths all over Africa, West Africa, and of these 12,900 deaths in West Africa, Nigeria accounts for 45% of this death.
In the face of the attacks, President Bola Tinubu reshuffled the service chiefs, replacing the then Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, with the then Chief of Army Staff, General Olufemi Oluyede. The president appointed new Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Air Staff, and Chief of Naval Staff. He also declared a nationwide security emergency and ordered the Inspector General of Police to immediately withdraw police personnel attached to very important personalities. Also, following a wave of attacks in November, including an attack on church worshippers in Eruku in Ekiti local government area of Kwara State and mass school abduction in Magatown in Kebbi State, as well as in Papiri in Niger State, the Minister of Defense, Mr. Badaru, also resigned his position. He was immediately replaced by General Christopher Musa. As Nigeria grappled with the issues, the United States government under President Donald Trump designated Nigeria a country of particular concern, accusing the government of complicity over an alleged genocide against Christians, which sparked debate both in the country and outside the country on the veracity of the claims. Mr. Trump threatened to also deploy U.S. troops to Nigeria. On Christmas Day, Mr. Trump announced that U.S. military carried out bombardments on terrorist enclaves in Nigeria. The federal government later confirmed President Donald Trump's announcement, saying it was a joint operation. The announcement came barely a day after a mosque in Gambaru Market in Maiduguri in Borno State was attacked by suicide bombers.
It's all security measures. Anything you can put in place to prevent the loss of lives and property, put them in place. If it's going to take the international community to ensure the protection of lives of the Nigerian people, put it in place.
Nigeria needs to be very careful to ensure that there is fairness, there is equity, and there is balance in terms of how these operations are carried out. It should never be seen to be against a particular faith or a particular ethnic group. If that happens, then it will create more problems.
Despite the setbacks, security forces recorded gains. Approximately 3,000 bandits and terrorists were neutralized. At least 1,000 kidnapped victims were rescued. The force public relations officer, CSP Benjamin Hundayin, also highlighted major achievements recorded by the Nigeria police in the year.
Total of suspects arrested for the year, 5,721. And in terms of recoveries for firearms, we recovered a total of 1,766 firearms. And for ammunition, we recovered a total of 13,487 ammunition. Do not forget, this is across the country from January till date.
In terms of investments in security, the Tinubu administration in 2025 allocated over 6 trillion naira to security and defense, with over 4 trillion naira for personnel costs and over 1 trillion naira for capital expenditure on hardware. But analysts say funding must reach operational overheads and intelligence fusion to translate into safer communities.
For me, I will advise that the Nigerian government should carry out this war as an intelligence-driven war, because if we don't, bring in intelligence, I will not be able to succeed. And 2026, I will strongly advise that the Nigerian political elite should stop the use of talks.
Nigerians should expect a sustained fight sustained onslaughts on criminals, on terrorists, on bandits, sustained.
As 2025 closes, Nigeria's security remains fragile, but experts believe if the federal government prioritizes community-based security partnerships in the coming year, strengthen intelligence sharing across agencies, and invest in conflict prevention mechanisms that address root causes, coupled with reforms that build trust between citizens and security forces, Nigeria can begin to turn the tide towards lasting stability. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Let's begin with security, or a lack of it. From the reports that you just seen, experts are thinking whether we have a fragile security system or not. Renewed onslaught against insecurity in the nation these days is giving some thoughts in a good number of quarters. So we're hoping to hear from the Minister of Defense this morning, General Christopher Musa, but for one reason or the other, he's unable to make it tonight. However, we have a panel of gentlemen who will be discussing with us. With us here in the studio is Onyekachi Adekoya, who is a security expert and MD of Aquiline Intelligence Consulting. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
This evening. Well, also joining us this time from our Abuja studio is Major General Rogers Ibe Nicholas, who is a former commander Operation Lafia Dole in the Northeast. He's commander Operation Safe Haven in the North Central, and a former chief of civil military affairs in the Army headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, General.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. We also have with us from Port Harcourt, Commodore Promise Dapa, who is a former Maritime Guard Commander at the Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. He joins us from Port Harcourt. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much for having me, and a compliment of the season to the Channels team and all our viewers.
I wish you the same. Now, let's begin with you, Mr. Adekoya. Conversations are endless. At the heart of all security, or a lack of it, are the people. It has been established quite significantly that the people have to give information to security agencies. Even the Minister of Defense said it when he was Chief of Defense Staff, that look, we need the population to give us information. Even during his briefing, his hearing at the Senate, he also said the same thing. At the heart of it is people. How would you say we have fared in engaging people in our security apparatus?
Okay. It's not an easy question you've asked, because if you say at the heart of it is people, security, you're looking at an all-of-society approach to security. So you're saying that perhaps the people are not collaborating enough, but the question is collaborating with what? Is there a system for people to key their efforts into? And I'll say yes, there's a system. And again, when we talk about intelligence, perhaps we talk about a siloed approach to security, because the DSS has a station chief. In every local government in Nigeria, we have 774 local governments. So when we talk about a lack of intelligence, sometimes, I mean, those words are lost on me, because I don't know what you say in lack of intelligence. The Nigerian Police Force has an intelligence directorate. The military has its own DMI. There's an intelligence unit, even a corps, intelligence corps. Even in the Nigerian Army, the Air Force has its int unit. The Navy, same thing. NSCDC has intelligence officers. DSS is State Security Service. Of course, their work is clandestine and core intelligence. So when we say there's no intelligence or the lack of intelligence, I think it's a bit of a play on words, perhaps not very intelligent in a way of putting it, because we have intelligence. And we shouldn't be insulting the intelligence of Nigerians.
So the question, anyway,
Yeah.
let me
even land on the point that we have intelligence.
Okay.
What you do with intelligence is another kettle of fish. And the structure in which you distill that intelligence into actionable path and then creating a program is another problem altogether. I mean, I'm hoping that as we review, we're reviewing this year for improvement. Let me just drop something on the table here. The Office of the National Security Advisor is one of the big problems that we have in Nigeria. That office should not have command. That office should be. I'm coming. You say
we'll come to. You're already beginning to solve the problem, but we'll come to it. Okay. Let me take it to General now. One of the major things that Mr. Adekoya did was to look at it from a national perspective. Now you have commanded, regional security task forces, Lafayette Dole in the northeast, Safe Haven in the north central. How would you say we have fared? I'm still very much interested, sir, in how we take on the people, how we collaborate with the people, going by the words of General Musa on this particular insecurity challenge we have.
Okay, thank you very much. I think so far so good. I think the military and the other security agencies have done well in 2025. The job is not easy. The issue is a national problem that deserves a national input by everybody. The population of Nigeria has to wake up to see the military and the security agencies as partners in progress in trying to resolve issues of national security. The community must be able to provide actionable intelligence, timely intelligence to the military and other security agencies to be able to execute what we want them to do. Now, somebody talked about, yes, we have various types of intelligence, but it depends on the quality of the intelligence you are getting and how you use those intelligence. There are certain intelligence that will be given to you which are very good intelligence, but you don't have the capacity to execute those intelligence. It becomes a problem. You don't have the technology to execute that intelligence, it becomes a problem. So I think for this 2025, the security agency generally and the military have done very, very well. It has not been easy, that I know. I haven't served in the field severally. And I think we should encourage them, particularly the new command that the president has given to us, the new CDS, the new service chiefs. These are officers that have had a wide range of operational experiences. I have operated with them in the Northeast and the North Central, and I know they can deliver.
Well, Major General, I would like to follow up on this issue of intelligence. Ms. Anyekachi here talked about their silos of intelligence, and you're saying the quality of the intelligence. But perhaps we could also bring in the fact of the will to work on intelligence that's available, because I believe it was the attack in Plateau State where one of the residents there came to say that the news was out that there was going to be an attack, and yet the officials or the security agency did not make any move, did not make any move concerning it. So can we also say that perhaps the will, if it's politics, or the political will to work on the intelligence that's even available?
Okay, what happened? You see, there are times that the intelligence given to you are really not actionable intelligence. And if we know the terrain of these areas we're talking about, both in Plateau and the Northeast, these are massive areas and the terrains are very rugged terrains that in some situations you might get intelligence that are going to be attacking a village. And the village location, the military position, might be just be about 3 kilometers. But moving to such area will take you almost 6 hours because of the rugged nature of the terrain. So what these are challenges that yes, you get this information, this intelligence, but how fast can you move to such places? What technology do you have to be able to call such actions or to deal with such situations? You have a station in, for instance, let me give an example of Plateau. You have a station in Mangu, and then the location is between Nasarawa State and Plateau State, and there are no access roads to those places. If you have to go to that location, it's just about maybe 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers from where the military location is. But there are no location, no means of movement, no accessibility to such locations. And you don't have the technology, so okay, let me carry out long-range activities to intervene. So these are some of the problems. So we also have challenges, But I'm not giving that as an excuse. But what I'm going to say is that the terrain is so large, and we don't have enough men on the ground to cover all the spaces. And we don't have enough technology to deal with the situation. That's the obvious truth about these things that we're talking about. And because the terrorists also have an advantage of the forest, they go in quickly with bikes, moving, commandeer the people, at times put fear into the people. And then with that, the people can't even give you information because they are so scared that these people are going to come back and deal with them. So it's a whole complex situation.
All right. Let's bring in Commander Dapa. Let me identify what both Mr. Onyekachi and the General have mentioned, and maybe you add to that list. What they're talking about is the fact that there's enough intelligence, but issues around infrastructure. The General talked about the ability to carry out this intelligence in terms of capacity. There's also the suspicion of who is commanding what. What do you see from all that you've heard so far, from the point of the actionable intelligence that we're talking about? Because it looks like sometimes there's intelligence, infrastructure could be a problem, apparatus in terms of equipment could be a problem, or just the lack of will. What do you see, or what do you know?
Okay, thank you very much. You see, all these things we are talking about, if you focus on challenges, you can have 1,001 challenges why an operation may fail, or why a military action cannot succeed, or why things will go wrong. Because the whole gamut of all this has to do with capacity. You must develop capacity to be able to handle issues. Like what the General said, you are operating in areas like that where there are difficult terrains, no access road. What do you need? There must be the capacity for quick response. The way you operate in such areas is by air movement, air transportation, air transportability. You must have small aircraft that can be able to move a company, a small group of men, that once you get an intelligence, within 20, 30 minutes, you should be able to deploy into a place. And you have them in silos in areas, whereby once you get an early warning, something is going to happen or there's a strike somewhere, before the people even finish the strike, the help has arrived. This is what has worked in most other areas that have experienced insurgency. We saw it in Vietnam, we saw it in many other places. So, and all these years, we needed to build those capacities and not to bemoan all these problems. Then issue of strategic communication is also key. We are operating, take for instance, the just environment that we are talking about. It has been known over time that these communities are in far-flung places, no access road. We must have small units. Like we are talking, if you have 2 or 3 men in a place and they have communication, we will be able to, when there's an incident, they give an early warning, then the main body will be able to respond. Then what we are having now is that whether there is intelligence or no intelligence, even when you get intelligence, you cannot act. Because there is no platform, there is no capacity to be able to reach the place. And so when you have a small group of people deployed, there are 3, 4, 5 men deployed, and there are no support, no backup. What do they do? When the enemies, the attackers come, they will just withdraw. So what we needed to do to be able to address all this issue of capacity. And that's why, for me, I don't like to harp on too much the issue of blaming the people, saying, give us capacity, they give us intelligence, or this issue of a whole of society. When we begin to have much on this whole of society issue, it takes the responsibility away from what was supposed to be the main issue to what was supposed to be complementary. The citizens are supposed to complement the effort of the military, the security agencies. They are the ones that will build the capacity, build the network that the people can slot in. And like you said, if you know what it takes for an intelligence to move from the grassroots, from a village level to the commander that will give the order, you will be amazed. Because somebody picks up an intelligence from the village, who does it pass it to? Maybe it goes to the local policeman there. The local policeman will pass it to his immediate boss, who might even far from the person that will give command. And that person will pass it to another person. Before that information will even reach to the person that will analyze it to give the command, the incident has already taken place and passed. So unless it is the commander that is responsible for that theater, has a structure whereby once there's an intelligence, it gets to him, he's able to analyze it and to act immediately, all these things will not work. So what I'm trying to say is that it has to do with the issue of capacity. We must build capacity. At the state level, we must have the infrastructure, the network that the security agents can key in. We must also begin to see how we can bring civilians, specialists into this system, so that when the military come and go, the structure will still remain there. You, the security agents, you come in, you just key into the structure, whatever is on ground, and you're able to operate seamlessly. So that's my take on that.
If I can quickly ask you something before we bring in our next guest. The three of you, as Jeffrey highlighted, have harped on intelligence and capacity. Not even ability now, but capacity. So if you don't mind, drill it down. When you say capacity, exactly what do you mean?
Yes. Now, capacity has to do with the ability for you to in place an early warning system, whereby from the grassroots, what you get as an information must be able to reach the person or the institution that will quickly analyze it and take action immediately. Let's take, for instance, you have, like in a particular area in a city now, there is maybe say a brigade level or a battalion responsible for the operation there, and you have deployed. And the way you deploy in sectors, have commanders in those areas. Now, a sector gets an information. A local brings an information to the sector commander. He must be able, through a channel, that will pass this information immediately to the battalion commander, who will analyze it immediately and know whether the threat is imminent. If the threat is imminent,
very
then you'll be able to move.
And they're actually sounding a lot like...
and to be able to act, these are what we are saying, and these are what I'm missing in this operation.
General,
Commodore,
if you can hear me.
There is quick response capability. I get an information, a small village, a community is going to be ransacked or attacked, and I have many...
Commodore, if you can hear me, it is all sounding very good, and perhaps even more like... military 101, to a good number of Nigerians now. But let's see if these are some of the things that our next guest understands. Is Professor Okeke Chukwu is with us, Executive Director, System Specs Academy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
This evening. I would have said, what are you doing in Lagos? But don't worry, you're on holiday.
Since when did you become a Lagos native?
Come on. Now, we're talking about the fact that we're grappling with insecurity. I would like to bring it from an angle that you will probably serve your own space a little further. One of the major ingredients of factors that insecurity has addressed severely in our nation is the economy, social welfare, and a good number of other things like that. And the questions remain about whether or not we're still grappling in December as we were in January, or whether you think there is a tiny glimmer of hope somewhere.
We are grappling, certainly. If you want to speak of glimmer of hope, when the most recently retired Chief of Defense Staff is made Minister of Defense, and he's replacing a minister who said that you cannot penetrate where the bandits are, it gives us hope. Because the person who has taken over as Minister of Defense he has combat experience. He's been in service until a few weeks ago. So that's the hope you might want to talk about. The president has procured some equipment. That suggests hope. Deployment and successful use is what will convince us that it will lead to better security. Now, the question of impact. You cannot live any kind of life in an insecure environment. The economy will suffer. In the case of Nigeria, you know, some people have been in refugee camps at the IDP camps for close to 5 years. They're in the northern part of the country, and when you leave land uncultivated there, desertification takes place. So to reclaim that land, you need to work on it for 2 years, 3 years. The people are not being resettled. There's money going into it, Northeast Development Commission and all the rest of it. Now, all that money, to the best of my knowledge, is going into procurement. When you buy mosquito net, bags of rice, it cannot bring me back to my village. So they also need for a recalibration of the purpose of interventions in the war-torn areas. Now, you're speaking of social life. I'm even speaking about the concept of community and social cohesion. If I am 6 years of age, and I grew up in an IDP camp, I have no concept of community. I have no concept of parental authority. I have no concept of personal dignity if I'm a girl. And you have reports of those who do all kinds of things with the refugees in order to give them food. So putting it all together, 3 things are clear on the table for me. Number 1, there is still insecurity. Number 2, there's a possibility of improvement given the measures being taken. And also the fact that no part of the country is spared. You're talking about, oh, you know, bandits, they're overrunning churches. Are they not overrunning mosques? Are they not overrunning road users? Are the elite not being shot at? Ask yourself how many northern senators and lawmakers go home feeling comfortable. So it's even worse when you talk of actual danger of being taken out, because they start shooting without fight before they find out who you are. So the dangers are real. Insecurity is on the table. The other last point I'd like to make is we're overstretching the Nigerian army. Completely. They have no business on the road. They are trained to deal with defined targets. Today, the targets are embedded in communities. I'm going to say a place like Munshi to get rid of bandits. Now, the bandits have buried themselves within the community, and by my training, I shoot definite targets. There's no target to shoot. In addition, my boys who should be either in the barracks or elsewhere, many of them are on the road. Number 3, I overheard the conversation about actionable intelligence, and I like some of the responses, particularly that of Rogers. You give me intelligence. There's no question about that. But I have no means of moving to the location on time to combat it because of the terrain. That is a fact, repeatedly confirmed across several platforms, and is not about Nigeria. 2022, I think I mentioned this in one of your programs. I was in N'Djamena, multinational joint task force headquarters, and we were there for 10 days, and we could see what it meant. The impenetrability of the enclave there. Not that it cannot be penetrated, but the challenge land forces, ground forces have. And also the fact that part of the community assists the bandits and terrorists with information. And they complain that, you know, when the army come, they will drive out all these people, they will go away, the army will go away, and then they will come and attack us again. Point to note, that is not the fault of the army, number 1. It is not the business of the military to maintain community life. That's what we are forgetting. That when there's no civilian responsible administration to hold the place, I'm available for radicalization. I have no job. When my local government chairman receives 200 million a month, and we don't even see him, he's not living in the local government, tell me why there shouldn't be banditry. All the young men, what will they do, and young ladies, what will they do with the energy? So the conversation is always one-sided against those who are really sacrificing their lives. Their fathers, their mothers, their brothers, their relations. People are dying every day. And the question of, I heard you talk about capacity and all of that. There was one debate I was part of very recently concerning the military. If you take the military budget, I think how many, 7 trillion, right? 6.7, yes. Now,
no, 5.4.
Convert that, 4 point something for personnel. Okay. Now, convert that to dollars. That's the first step. Use the value of the dollar 3-4 years ago to find out what it is today. I don't know if you get the logic I'm heading to. Okay, you gave me 1.5 million naira 3 years ago, 4 years ago. That means you gave me $3,000 at 500. Now you give me 1.5 million naira today, you're giving me $1. That's the angle nobody is looking at. The MRAP, if you're going to buy 10 of it, is about 1 trillion. Is it? Or 1 billion? I don't remember, whatever may be the detail. So you see that when you see the kind of money they are giving them. 3, on this budget thing, how much of it is released? Does anybody know? There are issues, and I'm glad I'm not in the military, frankly. They are so unfortunate, no kidding. So unfairly, if anything goes wrong today, 100% condemnation. That's why I think it was on this channel I was during that Kaduna bombing incident. They had been doing bombing all the year, 10 months. Then there was a misfire, and that's the only conversation. What kind of army do we have? Why should they shoot anybody? The concept of friendly fire is not new. It's not in my language. So there also has to be a more balanced public perspective on national security, with everybody feeling, I'm a target. Those are some of the issues. When a stranger comes into my village and is around for about 3 weeks, moving around, not talking to, I don't report to anybody. Say, good, no, it's not my business. It will be your business when they come knocking.
All right, Prof. Let me ask Mr. Adekoya. So a lot of issues have been brought up now. You started the issue of intelligence, although they exist mostly in silos. We've heard about capacity. We've heard Prof now talk about the other side of the divide, which is, first of all, the army is not supposed, to be protecting communities, and how difficult it's become because a lot of these enemies are now part of the community. And talking about the budget, and we know that the defense has the highest, last year, this year. So one would say, as he said, that, that is a lot of money. But when you look at the reality on ground, and I know you started saying something the first time you were talking about the Office of the Special Advisor on Security. So it seems there's a whole lot to put together. I wonder if we can ever get out of this insecurity, because, we have thought that mass abduction, especially in schools, were over until we saw it again here in 2025.
No, so I think it was Ayo that started and saying that someone had said there was no intelligence. And then we made the point to say intelligence is not the issue, it's the capability and the capacity to deal with the intelligence that you have. To put all of this together, Nigeria faces a bit of a wicked problem. And we are responding to symptoms rather than dealing with the real issue. So the issue of the ONSA, for example, the 1986 Act that establishes the National Security Advisor's Office says that ONSA shall be a security advisor and aid to Mr. President and coordinate, not have command, coordinate 3 agencies, the NIA, the DMI, and the DSS. Only. What do we have today? The National Counterterrorism Center sits with ONSA. And other command elements. The ONSA office is a sprawling complex with different dimensions. Now we have a retired Chief of Defense Staff who is now made Minister of Defense. And Mr. President has declared state of emergency on insecurity in Nigeria. What that means is follow the lines. We're going to surge. There's something called troop surge. You need to surge resources, you need to surge capacity, because now the Commander-in-Chief has declared an emergency. Should a cabinet minister, veteran warfighter, have any locking of horns with ONSA, what do you think will happen? We'll come back again to silos. And then we begin a siloed approach. So what I'm saying is that, let's even start with the framing of the security advisor's role. That should be a policy-led office, not a command function in any shape, way, or form. So that it is from there that Mr. President is being given the best possible advice on national security, and then creating a security program that works for the country, so that the different arms of security and agencies will key into the overarching, not that, you see, it's like we have unity schools, what we call federal government colleges. Useless. We don't need them. The Ministry of Education should create policy, create the environment, and supervise and monitor. You cannot be supervising and playing at the shop floor with the same people at the same time. So when you begin to create that institutional weakness just by design, these things will not work. And lastly, when the Commodore was speaking, the military are trained. Police will not come and tell you they don't have equipment, but they don't have equipment. They can't do, they are magicians. As it were today, these guys are magicians. They won't tell you what they are going through. You receive intelligence. There was, I can't remember which of the states now. They said it was in Kebbi, that where did the soldiers go to? They did a tactical withdrawal, which was the sensible thing to do. We don't understand convoy protection. You send a team out on a fighting patrol. First, they are fighting blind. Next thing, they are fighting unprotected. So the community comes out to say they are coming.
So do we trace this back to financing?
Because Professor it's about that. The financing will come to it. It's about creating a program, first of all. If you had the program, that program will tell you that we need local industry. We need to onshore some of our own defense capabilities. If you don't have a thriving local defense industry, you cannot be the giant of Africa. We cannot be importing everything.
All right, just hold on. I want to get Major General to comment on this. Major General, do you agree with Mr. Adekoya that perhaps our security architecture needs to be redefined and restructured?
Yeah, thank you. I think to a certain level I agree with him, because we need to do a lot of restructuring in the security domain because of the current situation we find ourselves. But like I said earlier on, the Minister of Defense, the Chief of Defense Staff, and the Service Chief, particularly the Chief of Army Staff, are officers who are crack battlefield officers who I know have fought, and they have very wide knowledge about the situation. So there is need for us to also look down and see what to do with other services, not just the security agencies, but the other services, the civil defense, the immigration, the customs, the fire service. They're all important. We need to integrate all these ones into the national security architecture, not just leaving everything for the military and say the military do this, the military do that. And like Professor said, the issue of good governance at this local government level is critical to what we are doing. As long as we don't have commanders, leaders, political leaders at the local government level who are responsible to dealing with situation, to passing adequate information, then we have a lot of problems at times. Then we talked about capacity. Let me say a bit about this capacity of the team. If you give an intelligence to the military and then we don't have the equipment, the technology, this is an area we're talking about the capacity. We have the men, but we don't have the equipment, we don't have the technology to deal with some situations. To gather intelligence, to process intelligence is not an easy job. It's not just get an information and then you say that. You have to process it through the intelligence cycle to be able to actually get what is intelligence. It's not every information that comes to you that's intelligence. So we need to do more to restructure some of the agencies that we have actually to be able to get the best of it for us.
Let's take it to Commander Dapper. And I want to take a bit of a detour and maybe segue a bit. It looks like fundamentally we're saying there are so many problems. But let's talk about what the enemy is doing and how to respond, Commander Dapper. The enemy is very great at optics and signals. So for instance, I'll give you an example. When Donald Trump said what he wanted to say, you see a surge. The bomb dropped in Sokoto. Just before that, we saw the resurgence of IEDs, and after that, we saw resurgence of IEDs. Constantly telling us that no matter what you do, we've got our bases covered. How do we fight the perception war if we can't have the mastery over infrastructure war? Commodore.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just break down some of the things I said before capacity. Let me now tell you what really works. Like the last speaker before the last said, you can't win this war without a resource surge, without a surge in resources. We will be deceiving ourselves. 5.6 trillion naira comes to about $3.9 billion. That is not up to what Libya, a war-torn country, signed for military equipment with Pakistan recently. Libya, a country, war-torn country, signed a military deal with Pakistan for $4 billion. $4 billion. So if Libya is doing $4 billion for military equipment, how much should Nigeria be doing? We should be doing 10. A few years ago, Morocco, that is not under any insurgency even, signed a deal of $5 billion to receive 48 Apache helicopters for their armed forces. And as I speak, the first batch of about 24 or 30 have been released already. These are the things that work. There must be a resource surge. $3.9 billion is what I think during this state of emergency the president should have announced. We should have been hearing a deal. Say we are doing a deal with America, with Turkey, with Japan, with Russia for $5 billion. We are going to do $10 billion deal for arms, for re-equipping the armed forces in the next 2-3 years, in the next 4 years. We are going to be doing $3 billion every year, $4 billion every year, to clamor about 4, 10, 15 billion in the next 5 or 10 years. That is what works. We must bring Nigeria to a level, the pre-1980 standard. Right. Today, everybody is quick to talk of our exploit in Ecomog, in Sierra Leone, what we did there. It was not because we are Nigeria, it was because of the capacity that was built during the Shagari administration. Nigeria then has some of the latest equipment in warfare. The latest jet, MiG-29.
Oh dear. Let's come to you, Prof. So he's gone back to the issue of capacity or equipment in this sense. In fact, while he was talking, I was looking at the entire budget. It was running through my head. Yeah. And I know that there was a time that for FX accretion, we did forward sales with the NNPC to get some. Oh dear.
Oh, I think we have him back.
Oh. Spending now is stipends.
Okay.
5 billion at the end of the day, 1 trillion is coming for capital project. How much do you use to maintain barrack? How much do you use to other things? And how much of it goes to equipment? And you are talking of contending with ISIS that they imagine. They are using drones now to drop munitions, and you don't have anti-drone capacity. We have been talking of MRAP right from since I was in service over 5 years ago. How many has Nigeria acquired? At the time when Niger Republic came with a brigade to assist Nigeria in 2019 or thereabout, a brigade came with 200 MRAPs. Then Nigeria had none. And these are the things we are talking about. These are the things that work. And instead of putting money in equipment, announcing budgets that will build capacity and capability for the armed forces, we are bringing in forest guard to increase personnel, increase overhead, so that this 5 trillion we are talking about for the defense and security sector will further deplete. I don't know whoever advised the president that forest guard is the solution for people that are in the bush that the military cannot contend with. Is this forest guard that are used to protect forests against loggers and animal parks and all those things? That's what we are using to go and confront insurgents. So we need to change our mentality. We need to change the essence of state of emergency is for the president to be able to announce a surge in resources.
All right.
We want to hear those declarations. $5 billion mass arms deal with a company, government to government, not the one some politician will go and use.
Let me come in here. I see how passionately you have spoken.
We need capacity.
If you can hear me.
Things you are talking about when the capacity is quick response. You must.
My apologies, Commander Dapa. I think the conversation has taken a life of its own. I tried to move to the perception angle, but we're back to the, in fact, our budget, because I like to look at numbers. Both last year and this year, if we do the exchange rate by, say, 1,500, our debt servicing is in the region of what it's talking about, $10 billion. So we don't have the money.
Attention is being called to our debt servicing. So if we're
talking $10 billion to service debt year on year, that last year and this year, which we must service, whether it's in bonds, it's in T-bills, or literal direct borrowing. So where I'm going to with that question is that we may not have money. So what do we do?
No. Even before we say we may not have money, let's acknowledge the core challenges. Military hardware is international hardware. It's an international market. There's no Nigerian bomb. If there is, it will be costed in international terms. So when you carry out an operation and you drop 2 bombs, tons of millions have gone. And they expect you to also go there tomorrow. Whether you hit the target, even if you shut down your mother's kitchen in Aero, you can't recover the money.
Yeah.
Correct? And how many do you have? How many operations? That's why sometime, I think, under Buhari, when they said they were going to now use, what do you call it, fighter planes to escort the Kaduna train, I shook my head in dismay. Total folly. I don't want to even talk about it, honestly, you know. So you then talk over, so you look at that, the hardware has international figures on it. And if there's any operation going on, if you recall, during the Gulf War, the U.S. was blowing $1 billion every day on that offshore landing platform. Cost of war per day during the Gulf War. So the issue of the budget is there, but there are also other issues if we want to be really frank about it. National security lies more with citizen consciousness than kinetic engagement. Look around, let's look around us. Most of the beggars we see are within the age of 16 and 3. That means they were born within this democracy, and their population is growing every day. If you also look within the country, you find that government budget has also been increasing, even if you transfer it to dollars. And then you ask yourself, in the North has 19 states? Yeah? That is the space one man administered, Ahmadu Bello. The Southwest has how many states? That's the space one man administered. Southeast, 1, then later Midwest. The point I'm making is 4 state apparatus administered this country. Today we have 36 state apparatus.
Plus 1.
The cost has been multiplied by 36. There are more commissioners. In addition to commissioners, you have governors that have up to 2,000 SAs, most of whom, of course, he doesn't know their names. Now, that's the cost of public administration. What does it deliver? Nothing. Each commissioner has a fleet of vehicles. You come to the level of, to the one of ministers they have, pilot, escort, CSO, and maybe an ambulance as well, and you have governors. What is it they're doing? So the criminalization of public administration is not what you're thinking about. You sit down and blow that kind of money among people who, if you're really to sit down and honestly ask yourself what they're doing, you can't put your finger on it. And then they build new houses, they drive new cars. Go to most villages in Nigeria. Anybody who left that village in 1970, coming back today, he won't see significant difference. Is your village different, are you? That's the point. Development is not taking place. In addition, evolution of consciousness is not taking place also. The generation of social consciousness, remember it was in this country that somebody from Kano became mayor of Enugu against an Igbo man. That an Igbo man won election in Lagos, that Chike Obi won election. Now, we've gone back to where we were even before the colonialists came. What does that tell you? Loyalty to the Nigerian state is disappearing because there's that concern. Now, without loyalty to the Nigerian state, when you see anybody in uniform, he symbolizes the state and attracts your anger. Without you realizing that without that man or woman in uniform, then that's why you're endangering yourself. That's why you'll find people who will go to the east, destroy a police station, burn down a NEC office, and they say they are hitting Nigeria. Maybe. Who did you kill in the process of destroying a NEC office? Your neighbors, people in the same area. What do you achieve by destroying the police station? You take away you create room for opportunistic criminality. And so anybody, if you're angry with me, you can now come and shoot me, and they say it's IPOB. Those are the things. Well, coming back to the substantive issue of national security. Yes, the Commodore raised the issue of forest guards. It's an attempt to deal with security. The question to ask with a sense of history is, was there insecurity when there was no forest guards in the forest? The answer is no. And that's why I have a major issue with what you call the expansion of state apparatus without sitting down. The world is, you're doing convergence. If you pick up your phone now and disaggregate what is inside it, you're going to put a big video camera because it's inside. You're going to put an alarm clock. You're going to put a laptop. If you put out all that's been miniaturized in that phone, it will take a room. The world is miniaturizing. We are going back to the facilities Adam and Eve used in the garden.
Oh dear. Well, until then, but but General, let me ask you this. Now let's look forward to 2026. These are the issues that have occurred in 2025, and we can't continue to do the same thing and expect different results. A few things have happened, and just as Prof said earlier, maybe those things will give us hope for the year ahead. So what are your expectations, General? You raised the issue of a need for, well, to use Prof's word, convergence around security apparatus. So all security agencies of government need to find a way to work together so everyone knows everyone's responsibility. That you also raised the issue, there's another issue that's been raised about the fact that the president declared a state of emergency in the security space. There is also the appointment of the Minister of Defense, former general, well, always a general, Christopher Musa, who should have been here with us today, by the way. So in all of that, what are your expectations? What needs to change? What needs to happen? What needs to be retained? What is missing? We know money is an issue. The issue that Commodore raised earlier, by the way, talking about the $4 billion in Libya, it's over a 2.5-year period. Is it something that we can also consider? What are your thoughts? What needs to change in 2026 in our approach to security?
Well, thank you very much. I think the nation has started well with the changes in the Security Department, particularly with the appointment of Musa as its Minister of Defense, because the former minister had him say that we can't throw bombs in forests where the bandits are. That means he doesn't have knowledge about how military operations go about. Now, thank God we have Musa there, the service chief. Like I said, there are crack officers who are used to operations, so they know what to do. Put together all these people, I think by 2026 we are going to see a lot improvement in our security situation. And I also know that with the establishment of depots in Ebonyi, in Osun, and the existing one in Zaria, recruiting more men means having more boots on the ground and means a better training. And so that is also something that will help us in the year to come. And looking at what is happening now, I can see the Chief of Army Staff touring around the operational areas, having conversation with the troops on the ground, and the minister is doing the same. I think that is a good start because you really need to go to the field to find out how the people are feeling, how your men are doing, and to also listen to them and pick up challenges, how to help them out. I think by next year, we'll do better. And the Air Force is doing very, very well. They will increase the rate of their bombardments and operational capacity in that area, if I will say that. They've done so well. And also the maritime domain, the Navy is doing its best to reduce the issue of oil theft and illegal bunkering, among others. But put together, I think by next year, 2026, if we get our acts together, including the Nigerian police and other services, the DSS, I think we would definitely see an improved security situation in 2026. The president has also made arrangements to buy some equipment from the aircraft, I'm told, and I'm also aware that some equipments are coming to the military. So I think by 2026, we are likely to see an improved level of improvement. And for the fact that most Nigerians are also rising up to the issue, to be passing information to the necessary agencies. Having said that, I think there's need for us to also talk to service providers to see how they can provide services, communication services to some local areas so that communication will be possible to be able to, so that we can galvanize all what we are doing together to be able to achieve a stable situation. Thank God, I'm happy that the professor said that the soldiers on the highway have been reduced, which is what we've been crying for, particularly in the Southeast. where every 1 kilometer of 200 meters you see soldiers mounting roadblocks. The removal of these people from the roadblock and moving to the operational area is very, very germane. So I want to thank the CDS for taking, the Minister of Defense for that action he took. And I also want to encourage the IG to do also so his men, where necessary. We don't need to put people everywhere, and where we have issues of challenges, and then we are putting men on roadblocks and things like that. So that's my take. I believe that by next year, a lot has to be done. A lot of achievement will be made by the security agencies.
All right. Let me come to Mr. Dekoya. Professor K did imply the issue of the vulnerability of some of these people, the age limit, and how they are easily recruited and co-opted, into this insecurity. Do you think that perhaps dealing with poverty, we know that in 2025 the number of multi-dimensionally poor Nigerians increased. Do you think that perhaps dealing with poverty could also, in one way, solve the problem of insecurity?
Two ways. The issue of poverty is, we've looked at the data, and the data is a bit inconclusive. You will have thought that crime would be most prevalent in the most poorest part of Nigeria, but crime occurs just about everywhere. So the issue goes beyond poverty. There are issues of the criminal justice system and the challenges of that, and the amount of cases the judges have to deal with, the IPOs and all of that. I think that going forward, what I would like to see, and just to sound a bit of a note of caution, we can have a mercy on our team if you say we are all commending Mr. President for the appointment of Musa as Minister of Defense. But I'm afraid a lot would not change, because the military alone cannot change the context. To answer your question on poverty, when you have paucity of funds, you must become innovative. And what does innovation require? Is that in our case, we must take chain of command to where chain of command becomes the most effective. We must bring the state governors and the subnational political class into the security picture. Part of why we have failed, and will continue to fail, is that we assume that internal security is the primary responsibility of Mr. President. And that's why innovative solutions are not coming up. Mr. President is in Aso Rock. The man has 36 states plus one to worry about, plus our 923,000 square kilometers of landmass. And then you have to deal with international obligations and international diplomacy. He cannot do it. So I'm hoping that for once, this issue of state police will not just be lip service, because we can see clearly that the country is at a great disadvantage and risk if we over-domesticate the military. So when you have the state police, you are bringing chain of command down to the subnational level. There's a governor who is in charge of his own domain. And then you bring in the local government, what you call county police. You don't have to bloat it, but at least let's have state police, so that you can relieve the armed forces from some of these issues. For example, if you lose your handkerchief, for example, you go and call a federal police officer. Some of these issues can be declassified out of the federal purview, so that our police, that's why the initiative of Mr. President is very good, to withdraw the police from VIP protection. It doesn't solve the problem, but what has that done? It has raised everybody's consciousness that insecurity is now everybody's problem, whether you are rich or you are poor. So everybody's paying attention now to the issue of security. But we've created a gap. You've withdrawn protection, you've not provided an alternative. In South Africa and Kenya, private security companies that renew their licenses every year, that are vetted by the State Security Service, they carry arms. You can classify their weapons so that you limit proliferation, and all these systems can be in place. So when you withdraw my police officer, you create an alternative. I can be protected, because the economy, 80%, 70% is run by the private sector. These people need protection. So I think all in all, it's a complex problem. What I want to see in 2026 is let's stop paying lip service to state police because we are at a critical junction. We do not have the funds. There was a time when we said money is not our problem in Nigeria, but today we can see clearly that we have a money problem. Forest guards, who will hold the forest guard to account in their domain? It will still be the same federal thing. So we need to take command to the grassroots.
Now we're talking solutions, so let's take it to Commander Dapper. I don't know whether I still want to double down, Commander Dapper, on the things you said, but now we're looking for a way forward. We're looking at 2025 in retrospect, and we're trying to chart a pathway for 2026. If you were to bullet it, 1, 2, 3, action, urgency like yesterday, what would they be if you could do it in 1 minute?
Okay, so the things that we need to do, there are some basic things to do. I want to tell the president that the solution, the key solution to this problem of insecurity is in his office, right there in his office. His chief of staff, when he was the Speaker of the House of Representatives, conducted a comprehensive security retreat in this country. And the communique that was released after that retreat was very comprehensive. Everything I've been talking about here that needs to be done to address security is in that document. And why will he be in the corridors of power today and he has been silent over that? That is very, very unfortunate. So let's start with that first up. The security, the current minister of, Honorable Minister of Defense, when he was the Chief of Defense Staff, at the risk of his appointment, talked about border security in this country. That you cannot have a secure Nigeria without a secure border. A lot of people criticize him that he was criticizing government, and he has mentioned it. And we are having a budget today that not capture border security. When we will start talking about border security? If you don't secure your border, without border security, there can be no security. Three, I'm not a student of the liberal security theory that always talk about food and bread and butter security. What we are facing today is an existential threat. It does not answer to bread and butter.
All right, Commander. Prof.
It does not answer to bread and
butter.
It's not issue of work or whatever. We are talking of...
Go on, Prof, yes.
Talking solutions.
Yes.
3 points in 30 seconds.
3 points. Number one, Nigerians should be armed.
Explain.
Law,
in 10 seconds.
License for your gun. Okay. Certain category of people should be allowed, just like before. Before, the pump action was under license. Even the French Jivan rifle, as a lecturer at Unilag, I was saving money to buy one before the license knocked it out. Now, Amin will require you that as you procure a gun, there are, just like you said, the certified security companies, there should be places you should learn to use the gun properly. You can begin with a range. Okay, if you're up to the rank of deputy director, it's equivalent in anywhere. You can own a gun if you can afford one. You buy duly licensed. You go for training. You're certified. I can use it well. If there's that, there will be some concern about raiding anybody's house. You know, that's one. Two, yes, so the forest guards should not be the sort of thing we had with... what was this thing that was done? One of those youth programs and employment programs for which there was no budget after 1 year. I think it was during the Jonathan time. If anything, and for me, seriously and particularly, the forest guards and all these proliferating outfits should be recollapsed. If they're going to be federal forest guards, they should go into any of the existing services. We can't have these commands flying all over the place.
It sounding to me like the infrastructure for state police is already on. Forest guard is just...
Okay, well,
thank you so much for your time this morning. Beg your pardon this evening, Professor K.K. Chukwu, Executive Director of System Sex Academy. I appreciate your time. Today, we've also had Mr. Onyekachi Adekoya. But, oh, by the way, Prof, you're not going anywhere. We're still holding on to you, just so you know.
This is the era of kidnapping.
Don't worry. We'll give you water. That's the answer. Mr. Onyekachi Adekoya, MD, Aquiline Intelligence Consulting. Thank you so much for your time today. We've also had Major General Rogers Ibe Nicholas, former Commander Operation Lafayette Dole in the Northeast and Commander Operation Safe Haven in the North Central. He is also been Chief of Civil Military Affairs at the Army Headquarters. General, we appreciate your time so much this evening, as well as Commodore Promise Dapper, former Maritime Guard Commander at the Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Now, when we return, there is policy and there is politics. That and more when we return.
malaria is gone.
What is wrong with my husband?
Ma, he was very sick. This is the lab result.
Thank you, Luta. With Luta, malaria is in big trouble.
Luta contains artemether and lumefantrine, and it is used to treat malaria.
Luta is another quality product from Hovid and marketed by Pharmatex Nigeria Limited.
It be like saying Trusha. This kind of resilience is only made in Nigeria. Rolled sleeves, working miracles, making progress happen with competence and compassion. Made in this same Nigeria. There is a Nigeria to be made by the Nigerian who makes things happen. Union Bank, enabling success here and now.
In this life, it's what you do behind that shows in front.
Now you know. Give us the fire. Tell us more. It's Cosmo or nothing. Luxury or not. This is Cosmo.
That's why I roll with Cosmo deodorant. No sweat, no stains, no odor.
Now you know.
Cosmo Roll-On Whitening Deodorant.
All day freshness, 7 days a week from GVS Cosmetics.
In the beating heart of Owerri, business never sleeps. From sunrise to sundown, the wheels keep turning. And behind the scenes, vision meets action. Governor Hope Uzodima's leadership has turned manifestos into reality. Transformations that feels like a miracle. But progress needs peace, and in Imo, it's not left to chance. From land to sky to river deep, guardians are watching, protecting dreams and opportunity. At Orashi's quiet shore, hydropower is rising, set to energize a growing economy. The change is visible. New roads emerge, industry hums, communities come alive. At the center, a digital revolution. 500,000 young minds trained each year to build the future. As Orashi rises, so does Imo and the hopes of a hard-working people. A new Imo is on the rise.
Corona transfer.
Now money point of that.
No worries, F could make am. Mogo Bible.
Victor, even you, they use money point.
Of course now, they use money points.
Confirm.
Money point made for your progress.
And the National Productivity Order of Merit Award goes to...
The only tomato paste manufacturer to win the National Productivity Order of Merit Award by the federal government of Nigeria. Endorsed by the Association of Private Medical Practitioners of Nigeria.
Our end-of-year sales is on. Doors are more than entryways, they are guardians. At Swiss Street Doors, we don't just build doors, we make grand entrances. From the timeless elegance to the unmatched strength of our historical doors, our pivot security doors, our exclusive doors, and our Irish galvanized steel doors, to the water resistance of our internal doors, don't miss your chance to save big. Come and enjoy our 50% combo discount offer now. Swiss Street Doors, your door, your pride.
You're welcome back, and we're still doing a retrospect of 2025 and charting a pathway for 2026. 2025 was a busy one for politicians, but I bet 2026 is going to be even busier, and that's why we put our eyes on what has happened and what we can expect next year. So we'll be having that conversation. Now, we still have Professor Oke with us, Professor Oke Ikechukwu, the Executive Director of Spec Academy. He's been with us and discussed the security segment with us. Prof, as you said, we're keeping you here, but we'll give you a lot of cold water. That should suffice. Well, also joining us here in the studio is Mr. Felix Moka. He's the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress. Mr. Moka, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
So observation is that you guys are doing a quiet takeover in Nigeria, but we'll expand on that. And then joining us virtually from Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, is my namesake, Ini. Ini, good to mention my name. Thank you for this opportunity. Ini Ememobong is the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party.
Good evening. Glad to be here. Good evening to everyone in studio.
Yeah. All right. Let me start with the all-ruling party, because at the opening in our research and conversations, they say you want to make Nigeria a one-party state.
Quiet capture.
Quiet capture. Well, it's not so quiet anymore. Anyways, we have governors.
No one is revolting, so it's still quiet.
Oh, okay. All right. So, do you people want to make us a one-party country or state?
No. There's no such desire, let alone intent, to turn Nigeria into a one-party state. But, you know, the APC is the ruling party, was elected in the last general election. Therefore, the party is in government. But I think what we've witnessed has been citizens, individuals, who have made, you know, decisions that is permitted or permissible in a democracy to move from their platforms on which they were probably elected to join our party. That is nothing unusual, nothing untoward. You know, you see, people joke around with this specter of a one-party state. We shouldn't joke, you know, but if you understand the constitutional process, the legal process that, you know, creates the democratic framework, our constitutional democracy that we operate, you know that it's not something you wish. Even if anyone in the APC wished for a one-party state, it's virtually impossible under the prevailing constitutional legal framework to enact a one-party state. So one-party states don't come about by wishful thinking or by people being mischievous or just, you know, thinking that they can do that because they think they can. You know, what you're saying is simply, you know, the play of democracy. Because, see, we all love democracy. But when democracy plays as it does, sometimes plays the hard game, we begin to resent democracy. We begin to suspect democracy. That democracy is transmogrifying into what it shouldn't be. What is wrong with a governor who was elected on the platform of the party, barring any constitutional dictate that says you cannot or you may not, you know, leave your party to join another party during the period of your election? What exactly should stop that individual? What moral construct or legal suggestion should, you know, preclude such an individual, a citizen, from exercising his democratic liberty? There shouldn't be. You know, and those who suggest that the APC is going around, you know, with a whip, you know, beating people to join the party, nobody. You know, I have challenged some of my colleagues who speak for these opposition parties, and I've said, no expert that I know has come forward with any, you know, atom of, you know, speck of, you know, evidence or substantiation that APC is doing anything other than just, you know, wild bogus claims.
So when,
you know,
when the governor, a whole governor or for your state, no less a person, and a good number of people, even from the PDP, have said repeatedly that the APC is gunning towards a one-party state. You think they don't know what they're talking about?
They don't know what they're talking about. That's just disingenuous. And I think it's also, you know, again, you see, a bad workman blames his tools. If you're a bad carpenter, you can tell someone that your hammer is not hammering well. These individuals who are in the opposition parties, they are the ones who are making excuses, blaming APC for their own failure to govern themselves as they should. Because if you really want to be objective, the reason why would a governor, say for us in my state, Delta, that has been consistently governed by the PDP since 1999, a resource-rich state like Delta, what are you going to tell the governor? How do you intimidate or cajole that governor to leave his party that has been very successful, consistently, Not that he's afraid they lost the election last time, so he may lose this time. No, he has no such concern because it never happened. What will make such a governor to actually, lead his party to go join a party with many unknowns? It just shows you that in the current political dispensation, these individuals are coming to a conclusion that their platform can no longer provide or be that mobile vehicle, that serviceable, vehicle that is capable of taking them from one point to the other, politically speaking. And which is why they're ditching that vehicle to embrace, another platform they believe, offers them some reasonable prospects.
But Mr. Moka, does that make them better governors? Does that make them deliver the fruits of democracy to the people even more? Or it's just pursuits of ambition?
You see, let me answer it this way. If a governor who is, say, an incumbent governor today, who is looking to run for office, for re-election, as he has the right to do, determines that his party is not even able to legally, validly provide him that opportunity to run, what do you think he should do? You see, the issue of service is secondary because he knows who he is. He is the governor. And if he has done well so far, he believes that irrespective of the platform on which he's elected or re-elected, he is still able to do that which he was able to do, to deliver to his people, to work with his people, and provide good governance. So, see, platform is really ancillary to the core competence of a governor who truly is in the business of serving his people.
Mr. Moka, I'm going to come to you. There's a lot of questions. Loads of them I want to ask you. As far as this issue of this love for the ruling party and the reason for them moving on. But let me bring in Mobong. Ms. Aini, let's talk about what is playing out in your party. You can see if there is a party that should do proper celebration this year is the APC. Because at least I was saying jokingly they have 28 governors or so singing on your mandate, about 76 or so, 78 senators now in their full supermajority. Similar thing has happened in the House of Reps. We can go to the sub-national. And they are blaming strongly the inability of the People's Democratic Party to put its house in order. Is that the only reason you feel that is causing the disintegration we are seeing within the People's Democratic Party?
Well, thank you for that question. And just to backtrack to what my brother Moka said, you see, when you win an election with less than 40% of votes, you begin from point one to do politics. And if you check all the governors who have defected, especially from the PDP, you hear one language. We are connecting to the center so that we can take benefits from the center back home. What does that indicate? It indicates the inability of the federal government to run an egalitarian system. It shows nepotism where they are running a system based on which party you belong. So people from our party now who want to take benefits back to their people. Is it in Delta? Is it in Taraba? Is it in Akwa Ibom? That is one statement you find underlying every defection, especially of a governor. Look, we need to connect our people. What does that show? It shows that when you're in a different party, you're completely disconnected. And you see your other colleagues taking benefits to their people, and you're unable to do so. When we go to the issue of crisis in a political party. Now, so the question would be, who is the ultimate beneficiary and who are the unseen hands? If we lift the veil, who are the unseen hands here? So if you have a president who appoints a minister and as revelations are beginning to come up and the sole purpose that that minister under him, a minister, an agent of a disclosed principal, the whole responsibility he has is to destroy his political party. A president who sits with another governor and says, look, go and hold my party for me. Undertake consciously. And I mean, the gentleman who said he is alive, and he said, he mentioned the processes, and you see these things happening live. So what is Moka saying, with all due respect? What is he saying about that? I mean, it's a natural disposition that if you had less than 50%, you're afraid of the next election, and you're starting from point one to prepare for politics and everything. Look at now, the national anthem, the on your mandate anthem is more popular than the national anthem. Sang at Judges' Conference, sang in Parliament, sang everywhere. Even in church now, here it's been sung there. And so when you politicize the fabric of governance to the point where even security suffers from politics, so what is he going to say about what happened? So he's talking about Delta, where he's from. when you begin to chase Okowa left, right, and center, and it comes to APC, and we are not hearing about the prosecution again, things have died down. When you are chasing a Malami left, right, and center, what are you expecting? When you go to Rivers, what is he going to talk about Rivers? The situation in Rivers. Was the situation in Rivers more dire than the situation in some states when 19 local governments of those states are under the direct control of bandits, and the president has not declared a state of emergency there, but declared in Rivers? So what is he going to say about that? So why do you think, I mean, the activities
so
in Rivers...
let me put a direct question. Let me put a direct question. My apologies.
The gentleman would not have ended where he did.
Let me put a direct question before I bring in Prof. Are you saying that the people, All Progressives Congress is literally threatening governors, coercing them to make sure they join the party, else their future may not be guaranteed? Is that what you're saying?
In conversations off camera, the people who have defected would say so. But there are two ways to do a thing, expressly or impliedly. So assuming that expressly they do it behind the camera, impliedly, when everyone says, I'm defecting to join my people, to connect my people to the center, to get benefits for them, then what else are you saying? It means if I'm not part of the center, I can't get legitimate benefits to my people.
But Ini, let me ask, I mean, when we look at the PDP, can we in reality say there's a problem within the party, which may also be a possible factor that people are leaving the party?
There's no denying the fact that there's a problem in the party, like there's a problem even in APC, like they tried to manage. If there wasn't, they wouldn't set up a committee for reconciliation, for management and all of that. A political party is a hotbed for interest. There are different layers of conflicting interest, and people get to resolve it from point to point. But when the problem is engineered from the position of power, when you look at how powerful the Nigerian presidency is, when you look at, like in the case of Rivers, that a governor can be held hostage by a minister. And I mean, just yesterday, you could hear the comments that were coming, even despite the fact that the gentleman has run into the president's party. So when you look at that, everyone, and the caliber of the people who have also emerged, with due respect to them as governors, if these were the people who were governors in the early periods in 1919, I don't know where this country would be, because they have the inability, most of them have the inability to stand up to say things. You see how they cower at power. So does the PDP have internal challenges? Absolutely, yes. Are those internal challenges what can be solved? Yes, they can be solved, but the engineering process, when you hear a gentleman who is a serving minister say, look, can we forget about 2027 and start looking at 2031? Because I have given a promise to the president that I'll support him. So how do you want to resolve that issue?
All right. Prof, you're the one that will separate the fights. The way I'm looking at this.
Or maybe I'll watch the fight play out. It's been a long time I saw a good fight.
Because we used to tell the politicians that they cannot have peace, else we'll not have war. So maybe you will have to. Well, Prof, you heard Mr. Moka, you heard Mr. Nyemama, and thank God both of them are lawyers, so they know exactly what they are saying. What do you make of what is playing out?
What is playing out is, if you want my honest view, is very exciting for me.
Exciting?
It is good, yes. Reality, when you wake up in the morning, you're not sure whether rain will fall. And if you go without an umbrella and the rain meets you on the way, you're not going to call police. So every human being steps out expecting the unimaginable. So now, that's the opening thing. The point, let's start from the position of, what do you call it, defection. Is it possible for somebody to defect to another party? The answer is yes. But if I'm defecting to a party because I was elected by people who believe in certain things, my first duty would be to call them and say, well, I was elected on this platform to deliver so and so. I think it will be better delivered on a different platform. And this is what the platform is. This is what it offers. That's why I've come to talk to you. Now, that's assuming the platform is ideological. That, we believe in welfareism. Now, we've seen welfareism is too expensive. We have to begin. That would be the basis, the preamble, the steps you need to take. But we have a political system where announcements are mistaken for consultation. I announce that I've defected, so every other person, if you don't defect, I'll deal with you. I don't need to voice it. And you saw the governor who left, and also that I think two of his commissioners didn't. That's number one. Number two, is that automatically the same thing as political prostitution? For me, no. And we must stretch it beyond politics. Is it possible for a Christian to become a Muslim? Yes. Is it possible for a Muslim to become a Christian? Yes. They've been brought, they grew. They were neither Christians nor Muslims. Their parents were taking them either to the church or to the mosque. As they grew older and began to read the other book, and they found, oh, it has more value. So conversion is possible. Now, the continuous criminalization of the concept of political, changing of party. We must educate ourselves. It can happen, it happens, but there's a way it should happen. That's number one. What should worry the APC, for instance, while it's celebrating the deluge of those who are coming to the party, is the internal crisis is likely to generate. If I'm in state A, and it's a PDP state, as chairman of the party, I'm the leader. Now, when the governor converts to APC, he becomes the leader of the party. Do you think I'll be happy? That's the thing APC is not yet seeing heading its way. Everybody will smile, but you displace from people from a pedestal of power, it will create problems. They are not paying attention. Those who are real political strategists should be very concerned about this. The optics will begin to play out as we get closer to elections. That's about that. Now, coming to PDP, I will do that with a sense of history. Kindly bear with me. The PDP has a lot of crises. Wike has been central to that, and to some extent, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Now, remember that the chairmanship of the party was to go to Southwest. At the point, Secondus was made party chairman. It was Wike who made that happen. It infuriated the Southwest. Body George kept complaining and talking about it. The primaries for 2019 was not supposed to take place in Port Harcourt. It was Wike who moved it to Port Harcourt. And all of that. And that also created its own problems. That is, in fact, part of what caused Tambuwal the candidacy, the ticket for the PDP presidency, because I practically gotten it. I was director of communications in his campaign. Our last visit was to General Babangida. You know, you go to see all those people before heading to Port Harcourt. So when we came out of Bangida's house to go to where the plane was parked and board, my phone rang. A stranger said, yes, Dr. Okechukwu. You could see this voice of an Obain. It had a Fulani ring to it. Yes, how are you? You're living at Ibrahim's house. I said, yes, sorry, sir, who am I speaking with? He said, you don't know me, but I know you. We've known you for over 30 years. We read what you write, we monitor you. I said, so. He said, well, anyway, why I'm calling you is that the man you're following is not going to get the ticket. He can't handle it, so it's going to be Atiku. So why I'm calling you is for you to join the camp and give it to some direction. I don't know what they think they're doing in that campaign and all of that. I said, sorry, sir, that's not how it works. He said, well, I don't believe in that candidacy. And Tambuwal did this and that when he laughed. He said, listen, they told me that that's what you would say, that you don't do anything you don't believe in. But let me tell you where the problem is. The people you're following are small boys. The only person really supporting your man is Wike. Wike and Tambuwal, a trailer will run over them. So I'm telling you to come out of that place. Live conversation. And I said, no, banter, exchange and all of that. He said, and that's what happened when we got to Port Harcourt, all those who had guaranteed. And one thing I would say is that, except for Wike, frankly, I can't point to any 2 or 3 people of substance who were behind that candidacy. If that intervention of the big boys in Nigeria, those I call the Old Boys Association of Nigeria, had not occurred, I believe Tambuwal would have gotten that ticket. That ticket would have come on the strength of one individual. It would have been, with all due respect to all parties involved, it would have been a case of political burglary. There were no major stakeholders in that campaign. Now, move forward, elections occurred. You saw Wike's intervention in the last election, where he was alleged to have rigged, and we saw what could be described as evidence. Why has Nyesom Wike not been suspended from the party? He wasn't suspended after the elections. He's been disruptive in the party. So it gives you the image of a party that has completely lost capacity to retain an identity. And remember also that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar spoke of, what do you call it now? APC being the one destabilizing the party and give it, I think, 50 million. I'm sure some of you remember, specific amount to this, destabilizing parties. And I ask myself, what sort of political party will be destabilized with 50,000? It must be a community of clowns. Seriously. And it's painful because I know the history of this party. I was part of the PDP campaign in 2023, 2027, 2011.
No, 2027 is ahead.
Oh, yeah. See, no, don't call my name. That's right. 2011, and, you know. So the party as an organization, the question I keep asking today, is it possible for PDP to find a Tony and Nene from anywhere?
But, Prof, I mean, we talk of the PDP today, where there was also an attempt of a coalition.
Yeah. No. Let me. So, in the case of the PDP, the challenge is that the crisis within has not allowed the party to build cohesion. It has not recovered from 2023, and has not created what you might call a comfortable house that will make people feel good. So the internal crisis is partly responsible. But what he is saying cannot be discounted, because I've had it myself from people who said, look, I better go there before they grab me and get me into trouble. I've had all of that. Now I'm talking about the coalition, the ADC. I already said there's no coalition. It's a group of slightly disgruntled, ambitious individuals, all of whom want to be president, and they're looking for a vehicle. It's not about Nigeria. So that coalition is going on, but why is it not gaining strength? That's the question to ask. Why is it not gaining strength? You don't know who is in or out. Some are complaining that, you know, Atiku and his people have taken it over. Others are saying, you know, it's P2B they want. Let us see what will come of it.
Okay, now, all we want is solutions, but right now it seems like everything is just boiling.
That's the
Mr.
Moka is seated by us now. It will boil first before it settles. So I've only added heat so that it will settle later.
You're supposed to settle the matter.
I will eventually.
Now, Prof, I don't know whether you're going to weigh in on this later, but let me ask, Mr. Moka, to the people who believe, who are not politicians, who believe that the APC is muzzling, and you also heard, Prof say that some people have said the same thing.
Yeah.
That if they don't play ball, they're going to be realigned and all of that. So, if APC is muzzling people, as is being alleged, and you are asking them to provide evidence, do you think that evidence will ever come?
You see, look, let's take a moment to really think about this. Now, I want to assume that the people who are the target of this alleged pressure or threats or intimidation or coercion are very high-level people in the PDP. Now, I'm Felix Morka. If anyone in the ADC or in the PDP were to call me to a meeting, and let's say I didn't know the subject and I happened to just, sometime to that meeting, and somebody said to me, Felix, you're the spokesman of the ruling party, but we need you out of that party for whatever reason or presentation that they make. Now, if I leave that meeting, what is so difficult for me to give a call to some of my colleagues on the National Working Committee of my party to share my experience with them? Who is going to gag me from speaking about it, especially if I intend to act on it? I mean, is it that there's no one who can take someone into confidence? Because if these are low-level people, you can suggest that they're scared, they're terrified, they don't have access to the order. We're talking governors, we're talking, former governors, we're talking, people who have occupied the most eminent positions.
But Mr. Moka, everybody has a prize, whether it's a governor or a manager or an MD, everybody has a prize.
Let me respond to you. So if the point you're making is that in the entire PDP firmament, in the entire world of the PDP, or of any of the opposition, there's not one individual who, amongst all of them, who has the guts and the spunk to say, listen, this is what I was called, this is what I was told by this person at so and so time. If you're saying that in that entire world, that there's no one who actually has that, core to say that or to speak, you know what? They deserve to be completely banished. They don't deserve to be who they are.
Mr.
That's
Moka,
the point.
Just they're alleging that the president and his team are doling out money. Serious hundreds of billions of naira to the government.
Prof responded to that. So Prof said, look, that there must be a collection of clowns.
Prof mentioned millions. I'm saying billions.
Billions to who? Is it
to the governors?
To governors.
And then they issue the fear that
From
the
where?
APC is planning to write results in the 2027. I'm giving you what he said, not my word now.
Jeff, I hear
write
you.
result in
I hear you.
2027.
But see, this is all...
Because of what is going on in the PDP, so...
Jeff, this is all... See, look, this is all immature. It's really senseless. It's completely speculative. It's, you know, it's embarrassing, quite frankly, for us to be having this conversation. You see, let's move on from this, because that's not the case. You see, in the PDP, some people today do not know who the national secretary of the PDP is. They don't. That matter is still not settled. So look, you know, an election is up on, you know, just imminent. Who will sign your nomination papers, for example? I mean, who submits your documents to INEC when these matters are still in, heated litigation?
I'll come to you, Prof. But there are some things that Prof said and that you have also said that I'd like Mr. Ememobong to quickly respond to. Now, Mr. Ememobong, you have heard Prof speak that those governors or whoever they are must be extremely small boys to be so easily palliated by whatever, function. And you've also heard Mr. Moka here say, these are big wigs in the PDP. How could they be so easily taken over or run over?
Yeah, clearly, like Prof has said, we see the consistent degeneration of principles in politics, and it's across the board. But more than anything, if you look at the background of some of these people, how they won elections, even some of the issues about their academic qualifications and the rest, and you see that they have elections just coming in the fall. And if, like what Jeff said, if those are the conversations that are happening, I understand when my brother Moka says they are speculative, but when speculation leaves the realm of speculation and is now living on all fours with us, I'm sure that the word speculative is just for the purpose of the TV. But I do know for certain that it's been reported and people have also voiced those concerns. Now, when we say that money is being given, threats are being offered, okay, so do we have a situation where someone who was brought into power by another person against numerous interests, was being hounded by investigative agencies, and just as it crosses into the EFCC, just as it crosses into the APC, you no longer have that? If you call that speculation, then it means speculation has.
But there is also the challenge here, Mr. Ememobong. Just 1 second. There is also the challenge here that Mr. Moka has also raised. That is, provide evidence. How about that?
Cross over to the center so that we can have these things come to us. Is that still speculation? That is not speculation. But is there the issue of politics without principle? The answer is yes. Is there the issue of fear that the elections would not be credible, that INEC would out, results would be written? People are writing about that. People are saying that. People are coming out. He's saying someone hasn't said it. Shea Makinde said it openly. And you heard, even from the answer of the Minister for FCT, you can hear some corroborations on that there are plans, not just plans, at the highest level, with the president directly being involved to ensure that why are they always mentioning the secretary? We don't know who the secretary is. And this is a story they have been saying since last year, because the whole idea is that they know that the secretary, or the former secretary of PDP, who was is working for the account. I mean, we need
to take a short break. We need to take a commercial break now.
We'll take that break. Just hold on. We'll take a break.
Of a political party.
Just a moment. We'll take a break. I almost wanted to say Prof should separate, but it's not.
I think Prof is going to add more fire.
I'm not going to make that mistake. I'm not going to make that mistake. When we come back, we're going to expand the conversation even further as far as the issue of party politics and ideologies and these movements and self-preservation as well as subservience to power is concerned. We'll talk about that with these gentlemen who are then, holding their grounds. As far as stay with us.
My baba, they always say, for market, every day gets your own wahala.
It's coming out.
Sometimes people go on scam me. But Baba say, no be by gra. You must cool down, dey sharp. Because with OPay payment, your money go enter sharp, no story. But inside market, anything fit happen. One day, we no see phone again. My Baba remember OPay USSD lock, dial *955*131#. Baba press am, lock account. From market woman to driver, from small boy to big man. Now OPay, they protect people like us. My Baba fit sell, press phone, collect POS, and still they teach me price. And when they don't tire, go just tap OPay night guard. We no fear for this our hustle life. Now OPay be the people payment shield.
The Duchess International Hospital opened its doors in October 2021. The mission of the hospital is to reverse medical tourism. We take particular care here at the Duchess to bring together a combination of the brightest and the best locally, as well as Nigerians in the diaspora who are interested in returning to do very good work for the benefit of our patients here in this country.
The good thing is that we have all international expertise here, all international facilities here, international people working here. Everything is coming together in a space which was considered not great in terms of the availability of healthcare.
Access Bank, of course, has been able to provide us with a robust range of products and services that has enabled us to deliver that standard and quality of healthcare that is integral to our mission as an organization.
Workaholic son.
Mama.
I wanted to thank you for the solar inverter. In fact, my friends want to say thank you. When you told me about that massive solar savings, they all went to buy their own Sun King solar product.
Yes, sir. I'm glad you like your Sun King solar inverter, but I have one more gift for you. Surprise!
Switch to more precious moments.
My name is Austin Azuko Kocha, but you all call me JJ. That's because I was so unstoppable, they named me twice. During my days as a professional footballer, I played as an attacking midfielder. No one could stop me, not even malaria, when mosquito bites. Now you too can be unstoppable if you use Lonat against malaria.
Lonat, a combination of Artemether and lumefantrine. Lonat, be unstoppable.
Welcome back. We're talking politics as far as the year 2025 is concerned. Our guest, Felix Moka, the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, always doing the heavy lifting because the ruling party. Inyeme Mabong is the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, joining us virtually from Uyo. And Professor K. Kechiko right here with us, who is supposed to be an interventionist, but he's smoking it up. And he's going to intervene. He promised he's going to intervene at some point. Prof, let's come back to you for a second intervention. And that has to do with, because Mr. Moka mentioned something about nothing barring anyone to make their choice, not even the law, so everybody can move. That brings us back to that issue of ideology. Is there going to be a day, a time, an aspiration? Or is this... Can we be sincere that this is not our thing, but we're forcing it on politicians?
No, it is our thing because we have evidence of that. You had NEPU, you had NCNC, you had the Action Group back in the 60s. They were all based on ideology. During the Second Republic, you could see members of the NPN and NPP arguing, no, your party is into this, but this is what I own, even as students in the university. So there was ideological engagement today. But even before that, on the lingering matter of what's happening between the parties, you spoke of allegations of inducement. I mentioned 15. Let me state my view on that. I believe that some of those who have moved over to APC were induced with money or threat. There's a difference between belief and knowledge. So I'd like to say I'm one of those who believe that. But for me to say I know
I must have evidence. I don't. So let's not kid ourselves. I believe that some of them are not moving there willingly. That belief may be stupid. There was a time people believed the earth was flat. So let's separate belief from knowledge. But I'm one of those who hold that belief because our politics hasn't been going in such a way that you can assume is a pack of angels, that somebody woke up one day after prayer, he was inspired to move. No, I need to put that on the table. The other thing I need to put on the table is that unless PDP puts its act together, I've said on a different program, as we speak, I may be mistaken, but I don't believe PDP right now is a political party. They say it's the main opposition. No, the main opposition I see is a civil society. Activists, civil society, etc. Because you look for the soul of the campaign against the APC, either by a PDP or by ADC or whatever, they are busy complaining every mistake the party makes, and is making quite some. But that doesn't tell us what you're going to do afterwards. So it further reinforces their incompetence. It further suggests that, okay, let's be real. You said you're going to displace this party. It's ruling badly. All of us are suffering. Look at the value of the naira. The states in which your party is dominant, what is it delivering? For us to now say, we want to go over to these people. So those are the things I thought I should put on the table. Now to the substantive matter you raised, which I've forgotten.
Ideology.
Now, that was a big laugh.
No, but really, I had forgotten it. Talking about something else.
Because actually, that's where you started from.
Yes,
and
I didn't want to lose this.
I actually wanted you to expatiate a little further on that, because you said, for instance, that you were part of the formation of the PDP. Was there an ideology? You said you knew the story.
Oh, yeah, but not that I was part of the formation. Oh, okay. I'm not a politician. Okay. Even the campaigns I mentioned, I was never a card-carrying member, but they will come for me. So
the question then is, from what you know, was there an ideology at the formation? And the same goes for all the other political parties in this Fourth Republic.
If you read the PDP documents from formation, PDP was formed by very serious, powerful elder statesmen. And that's also, for me, I'm really unable to make a distinction between the APC and PDP today, because the bulk of individuals who are playing very strongly in APC, I would say are PDP members. The former PDP governor was one of their immediate past chairmen, etc. So what is happening in the political space, the way I see it, is that people shop for what you call special purpose vehicles with which to win elections. The expert with a strong reputation in that is Elijah Atiku Abubakar. In all the places he has gone, it's for a ticket to become president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, also in the documents connected with it, he usually sets up a good to prepare documents. But for some of us, when you look at that document, take for example, we're going to ensure there's a greater food supply for Nigerians. I'm just giving it up. And that will be achieved through improved irrigation and all of that. Question. Does irrigation affect the amount of water going downstream? Yes. Would that wipe out fishing communities? Yes. Would that wipe out? So the lack of a cohesive image about development. Instead, you're dropping what you'll do, but without creating a framework with which to create holistic development is the issue I see. So on the question of ideology, yes, it was founded on an ideology. APC, go and read the APC document. It's one of the best. Go and read. I think there was a committee they set up on that was headed by El-Rufai. I think it had to do with regional, restructuring. Thank you. Fantastic document. Nobody will dare touch it because it's too good. So
not even the party itself.
No, the party wouldn't dare. That's why we speak of one party state.
Challenge.
That's why when we speak of one party state, I don't understand what you're talking about. In every party, there are intra-party forces. I've been part of a policy, fantastic policy that we're administering on education. Somebody called me and said, this thing can't work. You people are planning vocationals. If you set up those schools all over the country, will it not be funded by federal? I said, yes, He said, even the one you cite in Kaura and Moda, it will be mostly Southerners who will go there. So we'll make sure this thing doesn't fly. Let us share our money.
Mr. Moka,
there are perspectives in the party.
It's a challenge that Prof is bringing up there, that you have a beautiful ideology, because for a lot of Nigerians, actually, they don't know that there's a difference between PDP, APC. We just see it, as he said, an SPV for politicians to, get their ambitions into the limelight. And even the beautiful ideologies on paper, APC will not even touch it.
No, that's not, that's not true. the APC, I think, today, and I've taken the time to actually apprise myself with some of the founding documents, constitutive documents of some of these parties. But I think that, Prof is right, that, APC is the only party that I know that has, attained some level of clarity when it comes to disposition, ideological disposition. Now, that is the declared commitment. There may be, some gap between that declared commitment and the practice because it's, still evolving. It's a matter that is in flux and in progress. But, and it's work in progress, which is why, for example, today, we are one of the major things we have on our radar is to build our, democratic institute, our progressive institute, where we intend to subject some of these conversations to, classroom kind of thinking, scholarly research and discussions and debate to further clarify APC's ideological ramifications. So that is there, it's work in progress. But people come into the party because it's fundamentally a democracy. People can move, as I said earlier. But having said that, let me think, in Nyesom Wike's name, the Minister of the FCT, has come up quite a number of times here. And I think that it's okay and easy to demonize, Wike. But people tend to forget that 2023 was that watershed moment when Atiku Abubakar led the abdication, the complete trashing of that party's constitutionally declared and entrenched zoning system, which was the trigger for a lot of the things we've seen that are played out that have, sent that party into a tailspin. But, we think Wike is more the, if you will, has the upper hand in terms of, the crisis in the PDP, whereas actually the chief culprit, the, presidential culprit is, Atiku Abubakar. He was the one who let loose that whole dam and unleashed the flood that is consuming the party. I had to say that because, the problems in that party, you must understand it to then understand where APC stands and why APC has become very attractive to those who are moving, who are looking for safe ground or safer ground to go. And they come in there. And you see, it's okay to have belief about APC doing things that are, unusual to entice people. But, I'm happy that Prof, as distinguished as Prof is, also drew that distinction between belief and what is real. So, belief is, you can believe anything you want. But, when you don't have any, evidence to substantiate, then I don't reckon with it. It's still in the domain of speculation. Now, having said that, I think that 2027 is coming. APC has done over the last 2 years plus, has done a whole lot of things, that are right, given where we're coming from. Challenges remain. But I think that the governors who are coming in, many of them, I had a conversation with one of the governors during our NEC meeting. He says to me, if someone had told me I'll be sitting here at an APC NEC meeting, I would say, look, you're crazy. But he says, look, that many things that even if his own party had produced the president, he believed that he would never get those things done, that this, federal government is meeting them at their point of need in such manner that is compelling, that you cannot ignore. And that, he wants to be a part of that, process of radical transformation and repositioning of this country for sustainable growth. Now, if you can say, he's crazy, but that's his, idea and understanding that is propelling him to join the party. You can't second guess that. That's a man, that's a governor with authority who is making that decision. You can speculate if you want. You can't second guess him.
Mr. Memobong, the conversation is pretty much endless, about this particular issue that we're talking about. But the 2026, the year 2026 is right ahead of us. What should Nigerians be expecting from the PDP? You've heard Prof say, and a good number of people believed until recently, that the PDP was the main opposition party. But as at today, I think Jeffrey was helping us understand the other time that the APC already has 28 states. I think there was a time that the PDP had about the same number. But here we are right now. So as an opposition party, a leading opposition party, what should Nigerians be expecting in terms of political shifting from the PDP? Or are you saying that the APC has to sheath its sword before the PDP can live?
No, it doesn't have to. I mean, clearly it's a battle for a prize, and the prize lies in 2027. So 2026 will be definitional for that purpose. So for us in the PDP, we have 2026 will be a very definitional year because the cases at the Court of Appeal, even up to the Supreme Court, will be sorted there. But like Prof said about being the main opposition, in the past 1 month that the Turaki-led administration has been there, we've been, you see, the clear idea behind the disorganization, the conscious disorganization of the opposition is clearly to prevent them from doing the work that the opposition should do. So what we are doing is, while we are talking about the internal crisis, we're also fighting about the issues that matter, which is why, like today, we've issued statements about the tax and saying that if the issues that have been raised, that now a mere speculation about an illegal introduction of clauses into a harmonized version was sufficient to cause a pause on that. And now we're not just talking about a speculation, we're talking about confirmed facts that things were imported into that. We are demanding that on behalf of Nigeria, that legislation be suspended and its execution be suspended, and that clear-cut investigation be made to know. Because rooted in laws are beliefs that the legislature had passed them. So what we are going to be doing in 2026 is that we are going to be sorting our domestic issues, but we're also going to be playing the role that an opposition party should play. We're holding government to task, we're discussing issues that affect Nigerians, and we're bringing credible opposition on board. Would that affect the APC? Of course it would, because we're also making sure that we are not at what the APC would see in 2026 would be that they would have a more formidable opposition beyond the party lines, where across the lines, whether it is Labour Party, Zenith Labour Party, YPP, we are beginning to talk to ourselves. Because the clear thing is the fragmentation of the opposition or a sponsored opposition that begins to fight itself is what would lead to a very slippery victory for the APC like they had in 2023. So I can assure you that the PDP is coming back strong. There's a rebirth process, there's a rebound process, and 2026 is going to birth all of that.
Well, just 1 second.
We're only saying that what must be uppermost in the mind of every politician is not who wins the election, it's who wins the country.
Okay.
It's who wins.
Just 1 second, Mr. Memobo, because there's something that Prof said earlier, I'm not sure you caught that, which is the fact that every opposition in Nigeria, at least in this republic, mostly have done more of complaining and finger-pointing as opposed to offering alternative views that are functional. For instance, in the wake of the whole issue around tax and all of that, that some people also came out and said, while all those things may be legitimate, if they are legitimate, there are 400 sections, 400 provisions in the law. And so talking about, say, maybe 5 or 10 provisions spoiling things might be, pretty much throwing the baby with the bath water. What would be the PDP's response to that, for instance?
When you look at 400 provisions, when I get whiteboard and I put a small marker on it, you're going to be seeing that small marker, you're not going to be seeing the entire whiteboard. And all that needs to spoil a thing is not just about it, it's about how it is done. Most times we look at what is done and we forget how it is done. That is why the law prescribes how laws should be passed, the intention. So when you look at the fact that the jurisdiction of a court is removed before an act can be taken, an executive act can be taken, and you say that is little. Now, in legislative business, 365 clauses may be subsidiary to 4. The 4 may be the core of the legislation, and the other 365 may be procedural. So when you're speaking to the fact that you attempt to surreptitiously remove, I mean, it's an impeachable offense. It's something Nigerians should want to know why. The processes of lawmaking are critical. If not, then that is what the difference between an executive declaration, an executive proclamation, with a legislation, an act that would have coverage all around the country. So these are issues that are germane. So what we are saying is that, and again, when you realize that the president and the entire executive, just like the legislature, are employees of the country, then they must begin to listen to people. If people raise concerns of them, so the question would be, if these things were not important, why were they smuggled in? after deliberations had happened in the legislature. So you begin to question the intention. You begin to question the issues about the removal of the power of courts. I mean, as bad as people have complained about courts, it still remains the last hope of the common person. And therefore, things must be subjected to them. So even though the legislature, remember that the concept of legislative democracy is that the people are taking decisions on our behalf.
All right,
when
Mr. Memabo,
let me ask on our behalf, then it becomes binding on us. So when I begin to suspect that my legislature and the entire legislature did not agree on this, but it has found its way into the law. How do you want me? And these are laws that will need the people
so let me ask.
Voluntarily
let me ask, Mr. Memabo.
Obey them. So
let me ask, because I mean, what you're doing now might also be supporting what the prof said, which is that oppositions just criticize. Would you say that the current tax system has done us well enough? Because if you're saying it should be suspended, we've had Mr. Oyedele, and I believe we're going to have him soon on the program. We've heard him say investigation has started, and these alterations that have been alleged have not affected the one that he has. And we're going to have more clarification on that, so that we're not also still doing what the prof said, which is that oppositions just criticize without giving a solution. So are you saying that the current tax law has done us well, and so we should continue with it? And if the new one is suspended, for how long, until when, in reality?
No, clearly, the fact that there are multiple taxations, there are issues where even arms of governments and levels of governments are quarreling and having double taxation. The fact that you have people suffering from taxation is the fact that has been in existence. That's not the issue. But again, when you look at the fact that the provisions people are complaining about, so for example, that someone would have access to your account and can draw from it, and you're saying, and these are things that people are particular about. So we are saying that the suspension of this for 3, 4, 5 months does not hurt, so that people can have trust. Trust is the bone of every legislation. When you need people to be carried along, I need to be sure and certain about the things. I heard the interview that he did and said, oh, they are just 5. But these 5 are the things that people are complaining about. So
all right, Ms. Aini, let's bring it back to the studio.
And again, this issue of difference and discrepancy between what is passed, what is harmonized, and what is gazetted is very dangerous.
All right.
I mean, he even said,
let's bring it back to the studio.
He had came from the Federal Ministry of Justice.
I think you've raised a good point as well, which is what we're talking about. But I want to stay with the politics.
But we're going to do the tax. We're going to do the tax in the next session. So.
And Prof, as we're winding down now, if you were to speak to the PDP, because PDP, there's a danger ahead of the PDP. Their case will eventually perhaps get to the Supreme Court. It may get to the point where, if they're not careful, they may not have a candidate, even for the off-cycle election.
Yes.
So an advisory for the PDP. Also, hold on, sir. And also an advisory for the APC.
All right.
Because there's a time PDP also had 28 governors. They were quite arrogant, with great respect, that they are going to be there for 60 years. And now the APC is also robust as a political party. We see these political parties falling, because at the end of the day, if APC fails tomorrow, I'm not saying next, whenever it fails, you see these same politicians moving to whatever is the new pride at the end. So what advice do you have for the weak?
For both parties.
For both parties.
Now, beginning with the APC, PDP, particularly with reference to what the spokesperson has said, I will agree on their concerns about the tax law based on the issue he has raised. If you make a pot of soup that's the size of a drum, very delicious soup, and you just take a teaspoon of dirt from the gutter and pour into it, and it's turned, will any of you eat? That's the concern PDP is expressing, and I agree with that. If there can be a totally overriding clause. You may have 9,000 clauses, and there's one that says whatever objection anybody has to any of these clauses stands voided. You know, that, if you like, extend it to 3 million clauses. Nothing. So that's a concern they're expressing, and I think it should be investigated. Now, my advice, the other piece of comment I'd like to make is for the party to become strategic. My perception is that the dominant people there are not real. That's why I keep saying, who can get them a Tony and any again? Now, Atiku got the ticket in the one that Wike lost, right? At the party primaries. First of all, to even get there, he chose a vice president. I understand. After assuring Kuremadu he would be the vice president, he went and grabbed Peter without telling anybody. And I think, I may be incorrect, but they said Atiku was in, Kuremadu was on one floor. The Atiku made the decision and they fled the premises. That was what the expression is. But the point is that there was no consensus on that candidacy. Notwithstanding the fact that Peter is excellent. That tainted, that affected loyalty, and that made some people say, okay, you left here before to go somewhere, you've come back, you've muzzled everybody, you've gotten the party, let us see you win the election. And so the Southeast was not entirely, yes, Peter got all the votes, but it could have been better. For the North, it was a crisis. McCarthy was angry, Lamido, and who again? And so what they said, let's see him win. You notice it was not, so they need to, and then he got to Port Harcourt. Now, Wike, who was the only supporter of Tambuwal in Tambuwal's own aspiration, Tambuwal not only stepped down for Atiku, but announced it. And Atiku, in constituting his team, remember himself and Tambuwal were returnees to the party. He made Tambuwal chairman of the campaign. Can strategy be so senseless, with all due respect? If you wanted Tambuwal, you could have made Emeka Ihode have the campaign man, because Emeka is Tambuwal in a different coloration. So the party needs to be more strategic. The party needs to also pay attention to the fact that most of those around Atiku have been around for too long. You don't have too many young people, and most of the ideas that will come from that camp are already known.
But Atiku is already in the ADC. So.
I know. I'm just saying, just in case he comes back, you know, he bought another ticket.
Because of time.
Yes,
no.
For the APC, beware of those entering your house. You organize a party in a venue that can contain 63 people. But the music in the other party is not so nice. The food is not so, and they're trooping over to your place. And you're happy. Yeah, those guys can see I'm much better than them. A fight will break out in the dining section. That's the thing to watch out for. Secondly, and most seriously, many people believe that 2027 election is as good as gone because the APC has the muzzle, and they mean money muzzle, to secure it. So I'm talking about what is perception. Perception may be wrong, but I have a duty to place perception on the table. And also the concerns about poverty, you must ask yourself, if it's true that the budgets of the last 2 years have not performed, have not been, so to say, let's say one is, I think, 40%. But fortunately, there's an announcement it will all now be integrated in 2027. Let Nigerians see it.
Okay.
So that, yes, we have the terrain. We have more people coming into our house. At that level where we meet, is it possible for us to do things in such a way that it trickles down? The Minister of Information, one more sentence, had gone out, he did a tour to go and show the people, you know, what the government is doing in various states. I think the minister should be made to continue it, beginning early in the new year.
All right. Prof, so 1 more minute each. You and Nini, Mr. Moka, my apologies because of time. Your last take on this conversation.
Two quick points on the tax conversation. One is that this matter is still being looked into, and so we don't know what happened, and we must wait to hear, you know, the findings and the position of, you know, the Senate and the National Assembly on this matter before we begin to make these, you know, calls for suspension. And besides, once that bill was assented to by the president, it became law, and that automatically repealed the, you know, pre-existing law. So, you know, you suspend, we're going to have, you know, a zero tax system, which is also, you know, its own conundrum. But having said that, I think that, you know, all of the things about the APC and people coming in and APC being bloated and, you know, its vulnerability to, or susceptibility to, you know, failing. Again, you know, we don't reckon with that because if you notice, just last week on Wednesday, the president inaugurated a committee on, you know, the conflict resolution, you know, mobilization and all of that, because we are permanently attentive to this factor. Okay. And I think that's the difference between the APC and the PDP.
Okay.
We take this matter seriously, and so, you know, yes, the prospects are always there in the human condition, okay, but we take it seriously as a party.
All right, Imi, just before commercial runs over, please, just 1 minute, please, so that at least you have your say in it.
Okay, clearly, we must take the issue of democratization seriously. We do know that democracy is the destination and the journey there is democratization. And we must consolidate on the gains of democracy, which must put our eyes, like Prof said, that the impression, the perception of Nigerians is that the institutional uncertainty that should follow every election is not following this election, especially with the way even INEC is behaving and the disposition. And if the First and Second Republic crashed on the basis of the ruling party trying to do expansionism, careless, mind-boggling expansionism, getting into territories they should not have gotten to. And clearly the fear is that this democracy is under threat by the action of these forces. We are not learning from history at all, and it's time that we should do so.
All right, we certainly will. In the Ememobong, National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, thank you so much for your views and being a part of the program. And of course, Mr. Felix Moka, he is the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress. Thank you for your time. And Prof, whom we have kidnapped.
He's now released on ransom.
Yes. The Executive Director of Spec Academy, thank you so much for your time and your views on the program. And yes, the program continues in just a moment. I guess we can hardly say anything or have any conversation without the tax reform. The tax man is in the house. We'll have him after this break. Please stay with us.
When we think of Christmas, we remember the laughter, the warmth, the memories made. Now, imagine experiencing all of that in a home that is truly yours. Your first Christmas tree, your first family dinner, your own space filled with love and light. Write your own story this season with Adron Homes Lemon Friday Plus promo. Enjoy up to 30% discount off land sales. Enjoy easy payment plans and unwrap beautiful Christmas gifts, because this Christmas, this story isn't ours, it's yours. And some gifts never grow old, just like the joy of a home.
and cable. Great quality, now with the new look.
My workaholic son.
Mama.
I wanted to thank you for the solar inverter. In fact, my friends want to say thank you. When you told me about that massive solar savings, they all went to buy their own Sun King solar product.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you like your Sun King solar inverter, but I have one more gift for you. Surprise!
Switch to more precious moments.
Our end-of-year sales is on. Doors are more than entryways, they are guardians. At Swiss Street Doors, we don't just build doors, we make grand entrances. From the timeless elegance to the unmatched strength of our historical doors, our pivot security doors, our exclusive doors, and our Irish galvanized steel doors, to the water resistance of our internal doors, don't miss your chance to save big. Come and enjoy our 50% combo discount offer now. Swiss Street Doors, your door, your pride.
GSM cable. Great quality. Now with the new look.
Malaria is gone. What is wrong with my husband?
Ma, he was very sick. This is the lab result.
Thank you, Luther. With Luther, malaria is in big trouble.
Luther contains artemether and lumefantrine, and it is used to treat malaria.
Luther is another quality product from Ovid and marketed by PoliticsToday Nigeria Limited.
The leadership of the National Assembly and some legislators, the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, some ministers and aides of the president. They are in the State House for the signing into law of 4 tax reform bills by President Bola Tinubu. The bills are signed without much ceremony. Speaking afterwards, the president says the occasion signals a new dawn for the country.
We are in transit. We have changed the road. We have changed some of the misgivings. We have opened the door for new economy, business opportunity. We are showing that Nigeria is truly, truly ready and open for business.
The chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum salutes what he terms a major reform.
The states have seen tremendous increase in resources since the reforms have begun, and a lot more will be seen with this new tax reform bill.
This commendation continues when State House correspondents are briefed by some of the guests.
I believe that with consultations and the painstaking nature of the legislative processes that we've taken, I believe we brought out bills that seek the aspirations of Nigerians.
I think that at the end of the day, by next year, when this thing starts to roll in, the subnationals again should be expecting an increase in their monthly revenue, which we know that it should be to the benefits of Nigerians at their various homes and local governments.
These 4 bills are said to be for the people's benefit.
These reforms are not about raising more taxes. I think people get it wrong. These tax laws, they are now laws, are pro-poor in particular. More than 1/3 of workers in both the private and public sector will now be exempted completely from PAYE. They will not have to pay personal income tax. What this means is that there will be more money in the hands of the ordinary Nigerian to take care of their daily needs.
We have full 6 months for both sensitization, planning, and also considering the fiscal year of the government. Because when you have this kind of change, it's not what you do mid-year. Because if the application of law is better, you start from the beginning of the year. So effective dates, by God's grace, will be 1st of January 2026.
So as one journey ends, another journey begins. Now, the expectation going forward is that the implementation phase will be completed right when it should, on the 1st of January 2026. From the Presidential Villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. I'm sure that if you ask what Nigerians will talk about most next year, there's going to be an argument between 2027 election and the tax laws that will come into effect. Two of them especially, because two are already in operation from January the 1st. And the man that has granted perhaps some of the longest interviews, answered so many questions, done multiple explanations and explainers on same issues over and over. I was interviewing him one day. I said, welcome to the world of politics, the tax version, in that sense. Well, Taiwo Idile is our guest. He's with us right here in our Lagos studio. He's the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms and Fiscal Policy. Mr. Oyedele, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Thank you, Inni. Thank you, Ayo.
I have to say your name has been mentioned many times before you got here.
Yeah,
we are discussing security, we discuss tax. We're discussing politics and we discuss tax. So it's good to...
when we were on the morning, I told him, welcome to Politics or Tax. So this is where we are. So we're talking before we come live that when it comes to anything that has to do with touching people's money, people will naturally agitate. It may not. I don't think it's a Nigerian problem. Perhaps it's exacerbated because we already have a trust deficit problem. But we're going to give you like 5 to 7 minutes to build a bit of a case in terms of what is out there, what is expected, especially for maybe individuals, but more importantly for SMEs. Before we talk to the issues of misconception, the gazette issues, all the things that people want us to talk about. So let's build from them, sorry, Dale.
Yeah, thank you very much. You're right. I think tax issues are usually delicate anywhere in the world because nobody is excited paying taxes. So if you now add on top of that the low level of trust, add on top of it still is the low level of tax knowledge and awareness. I think relatively most Nigerians are clueless about tax compared to other countries. So the combination of those factors had meant that this was a lot more difficult than it needed to be. So when you think about what problem are we trying to solve, because they say if it's not broken, don't fix it. The tax system in Nigeria was completely broken. We're taxing our poorer citizens. People will say, how about accountability? And I say, well, if I was paying 10,000 naira before, and I'm not sure about accountability, and they say pay 6,000, why am I fighting the 6,000, right? So we're taxing our poorest people. We're taxing very small businesses, people that were just hustling. We have all manner of taxes, informal taxes, illegal taxes. Officially, you see in one of the slides, we have over 60 different taxes and levies, federal, state, local government, that small businesses are supposed to pay. Then you have these all manner of taxes on capital and investment. So you want to grow, so you need investment, then you put tax on it before the person has even started doing the business. We also have issues to do with how we even collect the taxes. The process is complex, and the process is also corrupt. I had the opportunity, which I think was maybe by design, that I shared the fiscal policy roundtable of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group. In 2020, I think it was, we did a national study on tax perception across Nigeria. And only 17% of Nigerian adults believe they should pay their taxes, and that evasion is wrong and punishable. 83% will do anything but pay. So when we asked them why, number one reason they gave is they said they don't trust government. Number two, they said, what do we get for the taxes we pay? Number three, they said, even when we want to pay, the process is complex and corrupt. 2 in 3 adults said they were asked to pay a bribe in the process of wanting to pay their taxes. So these are not issues you continue to pray about. You need to do something about it. And thank God we have a president who is bold enough to say, let's solve the problems once and for all. So this was not just an incremental reform, it's a transformation and it's a reset to ensure that our most vulnerable citizens don't carry the burden of tax that they have been carrying, to ensure that small businesses get relief. Exemption now is up to 100 million turnover a year. You have a small company, you will not pay corporate tax. You will not have to charge VAT, no withholding tax. Most of your employees will be earning less than 100,000 a month. They will not have to pay tax. So like, if this is not a good reform, I don't know what else should be a good reform. Unfortunately, we've had to deal with a lot of misinformation. We think some of them are based on people who don't fully understand it. That's why we keep explaining, so that hopefully when they understand, they'll do the right thing. But of course, we can't run away from the fact that there are people who they don't care. Even when they understand it, they still don't want to agree for whatever reasons. Some of them are beneficiaries of the status quo. They rather continue to benefit at the expense of society than for us to fix that problem for the whole of the system. And that's not the way to grow an economy. That's not the way to ensure there's shared prosperity and progress in our communities. So you see some of the exemptions for small businesses that will benefit. And these are the people who employ the most Nigerians. Imagine that you enable small businesses and each one of them just hire one more person. You're talking about tens of millions of jobs. And any amount of money that they make, they spend it on their household. One of the very important things that we need to look forward to next year is that for about 98% of all workers, private and public sector, they would either see their PAYE, that's pay as you earn tax, go away completely, or a drop. So that's more disposable income. On the other hand, what is it that they spend money on? Mostly on food, education, health, transportation, and shelter by way of rent. We remove the VAT on those items so that those things become more affordable. So you have more disposable income, you have more affordable basic consumption, life just becomes a lot easier and more bearable for you. And so those are the things we're looking forward to for next year. And we believe that anyone who really has taken the time to look at the details will know that this is good for us. Not sentiment, not emotions. We believe that if we make policies based on sentiment and emotion, we're not making policies. We're just gambling. If you really want good results, use data, be objective, be transparent, and be honest with the people. That's what we've been trying to do.
Let's stay with your slides for a moment before we come to the big issues around this gazetting controversy, which I know a lot of people are itching to hear. I'm sure you've spoken about it time and again, which has to do with myths, misinformation, and facts. If you can get that slide, it's the common myths and the facts available. Maybe you can speak to a few of them. I think there are about 10 of them here, which is quite important for people to be aware of.
Yeah, there actually more than, there are so many. There are more than
you just listed
10, yeah. So one of it is people think that government would debit their bank account from next year. And how they even came up with that, I have no idea, because the tax ID that you need to put into your account, if you are using your account for business or to earn income, was something that was introduced in 2020. So which means it's not even new. It's been there for over 5 years. So if government wanted to use that to debit your bank account, they would have been doing it since 5 years ago. They won't need a new law to do that. There's also the one where people say, remittances from abroad, government will tax it. Okay, so it's actually the opposite. In the current law, it says you are liable to tax on your income earned within or outside Nigeria, brought in, received in, accruing in, or deriving in Nigeria. That's what we have currently. Under the new law, we remove brought into and received in. So, in fact, it's more clarity for diaspora Nigerians to know that when you send money, there's no tax on it. But of course, if you live abroad and you have a business in Nigeria, a property on which you earn income, you will pay tax like anybody else. There's also the one around pension. They say, pensioners and retirees will be taxed. So this is when people read the law and they don't finish reading what they started reading. So there's what they call charging section in the law. So this is where you list everything you want to apply taxes on. And then as you go on, you have exemptions. So for example, we say pension is taxable. And then we go further and say any pension under the Pension Reform Act is not taxable. Why did we do that? It's because I can be an expatriate in Nigeria earning dollars, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I send my pension to my home country to put in my pension account. Why should Nigeria give you a tax deduction for that? Because that money is not available for... So that's the reason why you have to first tax the item, and then you exclude the ones you want to exempt. So anybody, any pension in Nigeria as a Nigerian, retirement benefits, severance, if somebody loses their employment, all those are exempted from taxes under the new law. We also have the one where people say that, government can take over your assets and then, without any court approvals. I say if only they have read the current tax laws, the taxman does not need anybody other than the board chair, the head of the revenue service, to sign a warrant. But because before they can do that, your tax must be final and conclusive. That's the terminology.
What does that mean?
Okay, so it's final and conclusive if three things happen. Number one, if you refuse to file your returns, because we call it self-assessment, and the taxman then says, well, since you haven't filed your returns, based on the information I can find about you, I think you should pay 1 million naira, and they send it to you, and you completely ignore it. There's a 30-day period for you to respond. If you ignore it and that time elapses, that amount becomes final and conclusive. Number two, the taxman says you need to pay 1 million. You say, I don't agree. You go back and forth. That keeps going back and forth until the taxman says, I refuse to amend. It's called a notice of refusal to amend. Then that triggers an appeal process. You go to the tax appeal tribunal. When you are done there, you don't like the outcome, you go to the High Court. You don't like the outcome, you go to the Court of Appeal. You don't like the outcome, you go to the Supreme Court. The third possibility for final and conclusive is you have admitted yourself that you're only 1 million, but you refuse to pay. Under those three circumstances, when the process has been exhausted, the taxman, as we speak today, has the power to levy a warrant on any asset that you have. It could be your bank account, it could be your property, it could be your car. And when the taxman levies that warrant, the law says if he needs the help of the police must attend to the taxman, right? And then he holds on to it for 14 days. If you refuse to pay, he can now sell it. And the only condition is if it's immovable property, you need to go back to the court for a fresh court approval. So that process you have today. And in the new law, it has only strengthened it in favor of the taxpayer because the board chairman cannot just sign the warrant anymore. So then when people then come up and say, oh, this is going to make everything X, Y, Z, they don't reference the law, they don't want to, they just make up those things completely. So that's also a lot of misinformation.
So sorry for coming, my colleagues for coming. So we're saying now, what you're saying with the new law, I think that's section 61 or so, I can't remember the exact section.
Yeah, of the Nigerian Tax Admin Act.
The Administration Act, saying that it's not as if the taxman will just come take your property for whatever reason. There's a process that can even lead up to Supreme Court.
Yes, yes.
Before the taxman can swoop in to say, okay, we have exhausted all legitimate process, then we can now do what the law says. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. And that's not unique to Nigeria. So like I said, we have it in the current laws. We have it in the new law. We have it everywhere in the world. You can't make the taxman powerless because all that you just need to do is to say, well, I'm winning 1 million, so what? Like,
what will you do about it?
What will you do about it? All of us, we decide not to pay tax, right?
Ms. Oyedele, I want you to, I know you've said this a lot of times, you do it on X and all of that, but I want you to categorically state some of those very simple daily worries of a lot of Nigerians. I've heard conversations that, oh, now from the 1st of January, if I'm transferring money or I'm gifting someone or I'm receiving a gift, please just put it there, gift. If not, your money. So I want you to state those limits. When does it become an amount or value of interest? When do you get the attention of the banks, of the authority, of the taxman and all of that? What gets their attention? I mean, let's simplify it for the everyday people, not the big guys now, because, I mean, from what I see, you have a lot of exemptions for the small guys, but those are the guys fighting you the most. So let's itemize these things that affect the normal people who are most afraid of this change.
Yeah, so for the normal people, there is really nothing to be afraid of because the protection they didn't have before, the new law is bringing that protection. Number one of it is the tax ombudsman. Beyond that, the threshold for exemption is higher. So if you're an employee, around ₦1 million, 100,000 naira a month, you don't pay tax. When you are even above that, up to about 2 million naira a month, your taxes will drop. Now, the employer would have presented that information to the taxman. So why would the taxman be interested in looking for an extra 50,000 when the process can take 10 years to establish? You know, many people may not remember, because you will really struggle to find when the taxman has used that power before in Nigeria. The one I remember was actually NEPA in those days. Do you know that NEPA, NEPA deducted withholding tax on their contractors and VAT, and they didn't remit it to the FRS. I think the amount accumulated to like over 6 billion when Naira was still very strong. So the FRS went through this whole process, and it became final and conclusive. NEPA said, but we don't have money to pay. So FRS got the injunction of the court, and they took over their property in Awolowo Road. So that FRS office in Awolowo Road today was taken over from NEPA. Really? When the NEPA guys were living there, they damaged everything because they were very angry. So this is more government to government. So, but do you think they would have gone through that process to collect 1,000 naira or 1 million naira? No. So while I'm not encouraging anybody to evade taxes, there is no taxman in the world that has the capacity to go after everyone. So therefore, if I have limited capacity, what do? I go after the highest yield. Where can I get 1 billion naira? Where can I get 100 million naira? So, like you said, the people that are fighting us the most are the people who don't have 1 million in their bank account. You know that the NDIC said 98% of bank holders in Nigeria can't boast of 500K in their bank account. Those are the people fighting. So I think something we underestimated in this reform, we said the current system is regressive, taxing the vulnerable more. Let's make it progressive. In fact, there was one of our meetings where we're saying it's going to be hard for these rich people to go out and be protesting because they don't want people to know that they are rich. We underestimated how these guys can manipulate the average person to fight the fight on their behalf, even against their own interests. That was what played out, and it's totally unbelievable. There are content creators who admitted they make up to $10,000 a month. They don't want to pay tax. You think they will go and create a content that says they want to tax $10,000 a month? No. They say they're going to debit your bank account. So you can help them fight.
Debit your 5,000 naira.
You can help them fight the reform, you know. So anyway, nobody will debit your account. Any amount of money you transfer, whether it's 1 billion, whether it's 1,000, it doesn't matter how you describe it, nobody will debit your bank account. At the end of the year, you tell the government yourself, you know the amount that is your income, you know the one that is not your income. So you tell the government, this is my income, and here is the tax. If you're exempted, you don't need to pay any tax. Just say, this is my income, and I'm exempted from tax. So it's a very simple process that we're even simplifying even further. Now, if you run a small business, this is even one of the biggest benefits of the tax reform. If you run a small business as a sole proprietor, as an enterprise, or you're just hustling, you don't even have a name for the business, you just hustle. Today, there are all manners of levies and taxes. Under this new tax law, we've developed two instruments. One, the Constitution says the center cannot dictate to the state and local governments. So we then drafted, along with the Joint Revenue Board, we drafted a tax harmonization law for subnational. Do you know, I haven't seen this kind of speed before. They're enacting it very fast. Ekiti State started. We have Zamfara, we have Anambra, we have Kano, and I think even just yesterday now we have another state as well. Lagos State has promised to do their own. In addition to that, we have developed what we call a presumptive tax regime. In that presumptive tax regime, we said if your annual income turnover is 12 million or less, you have no capacity to pay tax because that 12 million is not the money you can spend, right? That's turnover. You need to cover cost of sales, other expenses. And then we went further because we don't want the tax officer making that judgment. We went further and listed certain businesses that cannot make money. Vulcanizers, somebody is roasting corn by the roadside. You know, there's some businesses where if you have customers for 24 hours and you manage not to sleep, you are still a poor person. So those ones are listed specifically. What we are planning to do is for them to get an exemption, tax exemption stickers, so nobody will bother them. So if you're thinking about a reform that really is interested in the most vulnerable, because they're usually not at the table when people are formulating policies, we haven't catered for them for so long until now. Unfortunately, they don't have the voice on social media to say we like this reform. And that is why we believe that the right thing to do is to press forward until there's any reason to do otherwise.
You know, I really don't envy you. Because
I'm not sure I envy myself.
You know, but definitely, I mean, you're absolutely spot on. Nobody wants their meager pay, you know, touched in any way, manner, shape, or form. But while I hear you about the state governments, I didn't mention governors, so I just said state governments. While I hear you about state governments, I want you to help us understand how to cooperate with the federal government, if that's the way to put it, as a people, in a way that whenever it seems like states are trying to enforce old laws, or even local government, you know, the touts and all those things are trying
local government boys.
You know, how do Nigerians intervene? I know you remember the struggle between VAT and sales tax and consumption tax between the federal government and the state government. Does that mean those ones are dead? Now, how do you know when you are being overtaxed? Because people are timid when it comes to all these, you know, levies and everything. They say we should just do it. The big boys may get the message, but the small boys may not.
Yeah.
You know, at the park. So how do we intervene as a people to, you know, stop these things? And when people are being cheated, how do the people know themselves that they're being cheated?
Yeah, excellent question. In those harmonization laws that the states are now domesticating, one of the provisions is to outlaw cash payment for taxes and also outlaw physical barriers, including roadblocks and wood with nails to collect taxes. So if you take out those very rudimentary Mongo Park days approach of collecting taxes, and you can't collect cash, you remove the incentive for people to be on the road, because a lot of those taxes they collect don't get to the government. So they have the personal incentive to continue to be there. So that's one thing from a structural point of view to address that problem. The other one, which I mentioned before, is the tax ombud. You didn't have that before, which means if you were not knowledgeable and you did not have the resources to hire lawyers and accountants, you're left with no choice but to negotiate. So this time around, there is a power of the states behind you. You have a tax friend that can defend you and can even take your case to court, and whatever the tax ombud does in the law is completely free of charge. So that is help on the way that we didn't have before. The other thing is, because the states are the one domesticating this harmonization law, they will own it. In addition to that, we had sent proposals to the National Assembly, and we're very grateful for the progress the bill is making to alter the Constitution, provide clarity as to taxing rights, and to limit the number of taxes that can be imposed by different levels of government. You know, people remember subsidy is gone as the one speech of Mr. President. That same speech, he said we must tackle multiplicity of taxes. It's killing the economy. And this reform is a bold step towards tackling that multiplicity of taxes in a way that it will be sustained. Not that you tackle it today and we introduce more taxes the day after.
I would like you to also speak. Now you've spoken to state governments. How about the associations? I heard you and Jeffrey the other day talking about, what's the name of that guy you both were talking about on the morning brief?
Okay, Baba Bayo.
Baba Bayo. You know, he belongs to an association. Association will collect money. For some of us who occasionally take buses, NURTW will collect taxes. At the end of the day, these things have their way, you know, of having their way. Are those also factored into the consideration, or the associations are exempted from these laws?
So it's part of what we're trying to address, but you can't call what they collect taxes. So we can't enact a law and put it there that this tax, because it's actually not a tax. It's just that they take advantage of the system to do what they do. For example, those who transport produce from the north to the south, some of them said they have a budget of between 500,000 to 700,000 just to bring yam to the south. Now, because you have some people who are employed by government to collect taxes on the road, other people come on the road as well. And all of it will add up. So if you say you outlaw cash collection and roadblocks for collecting taxes, then anybody you find is a criminal, right? So that's a way of addressing it. And I think there's the commitment now from the subnational, because there's also a security dimension to it. The governors in their June Governors Forum meeting already adopted a resolution to see this through. So I think it's a problem that we can solve as a people. It's a problem for which we are already in the process of solving it. It won't be like you turn on the tap, right? It will take time. Like the Constitution will not be amended today, tomorrow. But I think if we follow through with this process, everybody will see this relief in the burden of taxes. The Nigerian people will pay less and government will collect more because you deal with the loss in transit that we currently experience.
All right, Mr. Oyedele, I certainly do have a whole lot I would have loved to ask. I mean,
so many, actually.
Yeah, because, I mean, it starts on the 1st of January, so what can we expect to start happening? How long can we wait for the tests and trials? Because, as you said, it will not just happen. Some states have still not, signed the harmonized one. But, I mean, we'll leave that. I know we can always call on you. It's going to be a very busy January for you.
Yeah,
so.
I can imagine. By the end of January, people will see their net take-home pay would increase. That's one fantastic way.
And you have a bit of relief
of seeing that this is working. They'll see the price of basic consumption come down, and businesses will see more improvements in their profitability and cash flow.
And then
so the results will be visible.
All right.
Yes.
We certainly do hope so.
Say amen.
You don't believe in the Nigerian system.
That means that you have, now that you have a bit of time, go and sleep very well. Take care of yourself.
I don't think Mr. Oyedele can sleep.
I hope you let me sleep.
I don't think Mr. Oyedele can sleep. All right, Mr. Oyedele, Chairman, Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms and Fiscal Policy. We still have a whole lot of conversations as we get into January, but thank you so much for coming out and being with us this evening. All right, now, so let's take a short break. When we come back, we're still on the economy. A broader perspective is what we'll be looking at right here. Please stay with us.
To level up your game. Mighty bet. Bet smart, win big, play with confidence. Incredible odds, non-stop action, fast payouts. And it's all safe, secure, and just a click away. Mighty bet. Bet smart, win big, play with confidence.
Play now for a chance to win.
Mighty bet.
Modern lifestyle requires a lot of energy, backed up by intense production processes, which impact the environment in more ways than one.
The world has realized that you cannot deal with climate change without looking at loss of biodiversity.
On Echo Africa, nature speaks and the discerning mind becomes champion of sustainable living.
One thing we want to do is to change public behavior around recycling.
Watch Echo Africa on Channels Television and find out what nature is saying.
Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Channels Television, ubiquitous.
Welcome to What He Bet. The thrill is called Sports
Thank you so much for staying with us on the program. Now let's talk about the economy, just as Ini said before we took a break. Two gentlemen join us this morning to review what has happened in 2025 and also look forward. The issues that have affected the economy in 2025 that must be gotten right or better if things are supposed to improve. Dr. Muda Yusuf is an economist. He's here with us in the studio. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
We also have Professor Wumi Ledare, who is an energy economist, also joining us virtually. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Let me begin, Dr. Yusuf, with the last conversation we just had. It's economy related.
It is.
And Jeffrey was very, very careful to begin the conversation earlier with the small and medium enterprises. They pretty much drive the economy. Now, are you as hopeful as Mr. Oyedele about the implementation and the expected results?
You see, what I would say is that, because I like what he said, during the interview, that it is better to focus on the few that will give you the largest yield. We call it Pareto principle. Focus on the few that will give you the largest returns. Now, we talk about SMEs. The SME space is almost 90% informal. You can't go to Kara Market here and be talking to them about filing of returns, or about VAT, or about withholding tax. Neither can you go to Balogun Market, or you go to Alaba, or Sabogeri in Kano. You are going to create a crisis. So we need to be very strategic in the implementation. Because, these people cannot relate to what we are talking about. Yes, Taiwo has said we have exempted this. These people are not even paying it in the first place. Have you gone to any markets where they give you a receipt and say that you are paying?
But they pay it informally. All those who come to collect money from
that's a different matter. He's talking about what is in the law now. Because in the conversation, it's about we have exempted them from withholding tax, from VAT, from company income tax. These people they can't relate to that. And they do huge businesses anyway. These are guys who sometimes import containers of goods and so on. Go to Balogun, go to Okeani, go to Aba Market, go to Onisha. How many of them can you be talking to about company income tax that they have now been exempted? Were they even paying it in the first place? Or you exempted them from VAT? So we need to understand the environment in which we are operating. Because every law, every legislation must relate to the peculiarity of the environment so that we don't create a crisis. 2026 is a pre-election year.
Yes, it is.
These things can be highly, very, very sensitive. Okay. That is why I'm saying that the implementation should concentrate first and foremost on the formal sector of the economy.
But Dr. Yusuf, eventually, don't we need to formalize in one way, capture this group?
It's not so easy. Formalize in this economy. This is a major peculiar. And I must tell you, the informal sector is the powerhouse of this economy. They generate close to 80% of the jobs. They don't keep accounts. They don't have audited accounts. So if you work to them now, what evidence are you now going to use to say that, okay, your turnover is 100 million, your turnover is 200 million? How are they going to communicate with the tax person?
Anyway, there are other issues to take.
So we have to be very creative in dealing with this matter. That's just the point I'm making.
Yes, let me take the comment of Prof on that one as well. Because to a significant extent, Prof, it has a big impact on the economy. It's one of the big reforms, Prof, that is going to take effect in the year. And a good number of people are looking to how that is going to happen. So what is your take? What are the, should I say, slippery slopes or the landmines in the way of the execution of these tax laws that we must handle with care, Prof?
Thank you again for having me and compliment of this season. I must thank you again for inviting me because I really enjoyed the conversation. And sincerely speaking, I'm very, very happy that I stay on the show to listen to that Chairman Taiwo Oyedele. I'm so impressed with the conversation that he has. And I understand Dr. Yusuf's concern because of what I call this is Nigeria mentality. But I want to look at this tax law as an instrument for progress. It's a structure. And a nation must begin to learn to build structure. We've never lacked good structure in Nigeria. Implementing it is a challenge. And I can understand the complexity of what is being demanded. Even here in the United States, nobody wants to pay taxes. But that doesn't mean that we should not use that as an instrument. It could be a positive instrument in terms of fiscal policy control. And that's what we need to begin to build. We cannot just dismiss structure because we've done it even with our education. Let go of the structure that are in place. If you go back to Obafemi Awolowo, when he decided to spend 33% of his revenue on education, and you could see the difference 50, 60 years later, structure matters. And I really want to commend the taxman for an excellent job that he has done. But it's a complex system. And Nigeria is not fully developed to be able to comprehend the importance of what it's doing. Perhaps because of the diminishing educational advancement that we find ourselves in. But we should not, because of that, not put structure in place and begin to look at what works and what does not work. This is where ethics and fairness come in. Honestly, I commend the effort for this tax reform. Have a different thing that may be politically sensitive. It's a way of getting what we never had since oil became the dominant factor for the economy. What this tax bill is trying to do is to find a way to encourage the subnationals not to depend on hands me down from the center, and making the people within their sub-region to be responsible in contributing to the developing of the sub-region. It requires a change in mindset. And that's the way I'm going to look at this tax system. It's an economic restructuring that can have a lasting impact in the way Nigeria thinks in the future. And I look forward to observing the workability of it. It's not going to be easy, but it's worth trying. That's where professional ethics come into play.
All right, Prof. Okay.
Yeah, I would like to ask Prof. I mean, as was stated earlier, yes, we would love to dwell on the tax reform, but when you look at the economy generally, we've seen a declining inflation this year. We've had gains of the reforms, but we did not see much of the macroeconomic gains translating to micro. We still saw an increase in the number of the poor in the country and all of that. Where would you say we're missing it? Translating those macroeconomic positive data to micro so that we can focus on that as we head into 2026.
Yes, thank you. If you look at the CBN projections, they are doable. It is always very difficult to climb up from a valley. Nigeria got sunk deep into the valley during the last 80 years, specifically from 2010 to 2023. And that is what is still lingering on. What we need now is consistency in policy and for people to understand that it takes time to climb out of a valley. When I was growing up, when you are digging a well, there are also always levers beside the well that you are going to climb up. For the last 10 years, we went down without those levers that are good, supposed to bring us up. The subsidy removal might have created some pain, but the long-run benefit we are going to see. And that's what you have seen. So basically, if we want to find the impact of the upswing, we are not there yet. We are still climbing up. Then the government must become accountable to the people. The professionals must be ethical, and they must also be fair. This is, to me, we're going to get the impact. It cannot be fast. I'm sure you know that the rate at things go down is faster than the rate at which things will come up. And that's what we're seeing. With the expectation of about 4.5% GDP growth, coupled with inflation of about 12.5% in 2026, and what they call a GDP debt ratio of about 35%, if we can sustain that, things will get better. I'm optimistic by conscience.
All right, Prof.
This is where now, if I can quickly finish.
Okay.
We have fairness and ethics coming. I don't understand why the price of petrol will go down and public transportation is not going down. I mean, those are structural deficiency that has boggled our mind, really, in the sense that ethics does not seem to be part of the language of majority of Nigerian traders, if I can use the word.
All right, Prof. Dr. Yusuf, I just want to follow up on that.
Yeah.
So a lot of Nigerians are optimistic that 2026 will give more gains of the reforms, and that perhaps we would see that translation from macro gains to micro gains. But there's also the fear that 2026 is the pre-election year, and our leaders may be distracted, and that can hamper the gains that we're expecting.
Well, if anything, I think the fact that 2026 is a pre-election year should even compel them to do more to be able to convince the voters that they need to vote for them. Because a major campaign conversation in 2026 will be the cost of living and the impact of the reforms on the citizens. So the government will have to struggle, and it's a very important struggle, to convince the citizens that this reform is benefiting them. At the level of some elitist conversation, I think you can see some improvement. You know, I mean, there is this talk about the stability of the exchange rate, the deceleration, GDP growth. All these indicators are looking good. And some of these things are cascading to level of investment, because investors' confidence is improving. Profitability in the investment environment is improving. Some prices are actually dropping. So we are beginning to see some benefits. So I think going forward, and it's a responsibility for both the federal and the states, because I keep saying this, when we have economic conversations on the economy, the tendency is to be looking at the center only. Many of these states now are now posting budgets of over ₦1 trillion. I mean, they have to also show something to the people.
So what do they bring? Because that's the question I was going to ask. Most of the time, just as you said, we talk about to the federal government all the time.
Yes.
So what should the states be doing? And he asked a question about macroeconomic policies or policy gains, not translating into micro. Prof also emphasized it the other time that the price of stuff, fuel may be reducing, but the cost of transportation isn't moving an inch. So what can the state governments do?
You see, there has to be specific intervention, because these are social issues. These are not problems you solve purely at the macroeconomic level. These are social specific intervention programs, like transportation, for instance. quite a number of states are doing something, but they can do more. Because one of the areas where the poor spend a lot of their money is on transportation. Some of them spend close to 30% of their total salary on transportation. Imagine they can step out and they can see a bus that is heavily subsidized, like these BRT buses. Imagine that they are heavily subsidized at just about 50% of what you can get from the commercial buses. You can imagine the impact. The same thing with education. We are now in a country where practically everybody is struggling to put their children in a private school. What happens to public schools? The subnationals have a big role to play so that the pressure of paying school fees on the parents will be less.
All right, Doctor, let's take it to Prof. I'm looking at the macroeconomic outlook of the central bank, as you listed. A lot of them in the north, apart from the debt to GDP, which will slightly increase, so that is slightly in the south. All these big numbers, they are quite impressive. I don't agree with one or two of those numbers because reality has taught me to manage expectation. And as Dr. Yusuf has said, last year we saw over-ambition, even from the federal government, and it looks like the state government have taken caution. But where I'm going to with that question is wastage and corruption is at the bane of our problem. Sometimes it's not really that we don't have money. It's that these monies are siphoned or misappropriated, or let's use the right word, stolen. How do we make sure that we manage our funds as much as possible so that it trickles down to the people? This argument about trickling down is because the people that are running the government, some of them, if you give them 100 naira, they will spend 20 naira on the people and still 80 naira. Now, we're almost begging them, say, okay, you just take 30 naira and leave 70 for the people. We are getting to that point. It's literal. Prof.
Well, I understand, and you are very correct, my friend. This is where we need to begin to look differently to the type of leadership we have. What we have majorly in Nigeria, if I can be forgiven, we have too many transactionalism dominating our political system. And so we need to begin to think in terms of transformational leaders. And we do have some governors that are trying, and I think Dr. Yusuf said something that maybe the government needs to be thinking about. I won't call it subsidy, but I'll call it palliative spending that can benefit people. Having good education, good public school, it's not subsidy. It's more or less an incentive to keep more money in people's pocket by making sure they don't pay high school fees, which they're entitled to. We abandon that. So the government needs to begin to think in terms of even helping community build roads so that the movement of agricultural products to the market can be less expensive. And then there will be less damages to their products because they can get it to the market quickly. So those are ways in which government needs to be thinking. I think this idea of corruption, people using the word corruption as actually limit the negative implication of being corrupted. Call them thieves. You are stealing public money to live affluent life.
Well, it sounds like,
to some extent, I don't pay attention.
It sounds like you are in agreement with the president.
I see what they do.
It sounds like you are in agreement with the president with the naming sometimes, because the president has said, even if all you do is rob people, you are a terrorist. At least that's the way it sounds to me. Maybe that's not the way he's put it. But, you know, there are so many issues to raise on this matter. And as you know, and as Dr. Yusuf is aware, we will call you from time to time because we have questions to ask, and you have answers to give us. For now, we have to thank you very much for being a part of our program this morning. Professor Omin Ludari is an energy economist. We appreciate your time today, as well as Dr. Muda Yusuf. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Yusuf is always realistic. The realist himself. Ayo, it's evening. It's not man.
Exactly. I hope by tomorrow you
I have white, and you know it's always white in the morning. Well, tomorrow we are here again, just as Jeffrey said, you know, earlier when we started. We'll be looking at some other aspects of our lives: the judiciary, youth employment, youth empowerment, and education. And we are hoping that we'll be joined by the Minister of Education tomorrow. Until then, have a wonderful... Oh, by the way, to also let you know, we hope to have the Minister of Trade and Investment as well join us tomorrow.
The Minister of State for Industry.
Minister of State for Industry. Thank you so much. And in the meantime...
Some senior advocates of Nigeria. So it's going to be an expansive conversation from judiciary, youth empowerment, as well as, of course, education. But thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, just before we go, we're going to have 2 senior advocates of Nigeria also joining us tomorrow. I believe Senior Advocate Wahab Shitu will be here with us tomorrow. So it's not just the ministers.
Johnson.
Exactly. So it's going to be a full house tomorrow. You don't want to miss it as we conclude the year 2025.
I've said thank you. It's your turn.
Okay, thank you. Hope to see you tomorrow and have a great conversation. I'm Ini John Mekwa.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Enjoy the rest of your evening.